Councillor Mark Boland. Councillor Burchell. Councillor Butler. Councillor Carboni Mangan. Councillor Corkery. Councillor Dennison. Councillor Dockrell. Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Doyle. Councillor Gearan. Councillor Hannafy. Councillor Haughey. Councillor Healy. Councillor Hopkins. Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Johnston. Councillor Kelly. Councillor Kitt. Councillor Leddy. Councillor Maguire. Councillor McCamley. Councillor McDonough.
Here.
Apologies, Councillor Mulligan. Councillor Mulville. Councillor Murphy. Councillor Newman. Councillor O'Brien. Councillor O'Leary.
Here.
Councillor Onyemera. Councillor Quinlan. Councillor Quinn. Apologies, Councillor Redwood. Councillor Ryan. Councillor Sheehan. Apologies, Councillor Shovlin. Councillor Smith. Councillor Tormey. Councillor Troy. Councillor Walsh.
Okay. Go through the usual notice. So all mobile phones should be on silent or switched off for the duration of the meeting. Please note that this meeting is being webcast. All members, please remember to switch off your microphone when you have finished speaking. All members are reminded that the Chamber's non-smoking vaping area standing orders will apply to all aspects of the meeting. Councillors are reminded of the provisions Standing Order number 92 that all members are bound to act in accordance with the ethics framework and code of conduct for local authority members to cooperate with the orderly conduct of meetings, direction of the Mayor, and in a manner that is respectful of colleagues. Members have been circulated with the agenda for today's meeting, and any member forming the view that they have a conflict of interest in the matters of subject to today's agenda should now disclose same. Councillors are also reminded of the provisions. Oh, sorry, John Smith, yes.
Relation to item number 19, I think it is, the artist's grant.
Okay.
And I'm happy to excuse myself during that.
Okay, all right. Okay, noted. Councillors are also reminded of provisions of Standing Order number 93 that members must bear in mind that discussions at council meetings are not privileged. No member may make false statements, impute improper motives, or use offensive or unbecoming words in reference to any member of the council, employee of the council, or any other person. Any member having made such statements or used such objectionable words and not explaining or retracting same or offering apologies for the use thereof when requested by the Mayor to do so shall be called upon by the Mayor to withdraw from the meeting. Members making any such statements or comments may find themselves personally liable. And just on that statement, I would ask councillors just to be respectful to each other, not to call each other names. I would also note that you can be sued. You can be sued, and there have been cases. So I'm just flagging that for you. Also, if you speak after the microphone is turned off, and I will turn off the microphones, nobody is hearing you on the webcast. You're talking inside in this room here. Nobody outside is hearing you. So I'm just noting that for you, so everyone should know that. Right, okay, so I've received some emergency motions, and I've received, well, I suppose, 2 which I've ruled out of order, and then I have received a motion on the Chief Executive's report, which on advice I've ruled out of order, but I have a proposal to put to the meeting, and this has come from, well, it's come from me and the Executive, that we vary the agenda and that we take Councillor Quinn's motion, which is item number 31, relating to council rents. You see it on the agenda there, that we vary the meeting to take that earlier. So I'm wondering, will the meeting agree to that? And I can do that 2 ways. I can take it as the first motion on the agenda, on the list of motions, or I can take it 15 minutes before the end. I'm in your hands. What does the room want to do? Okay. Councillor Quinn.
First, and then we can look at when we can take it.
Agree what?
Can we agree that it can be taken first before we decide when it can be taken? Thank you.
Well, okay. Are you agreeable to varying the agenda so we can take Councillor Quinn's motion? So do I have to go to a vote on this? Right. Okay. So somebody saying no. It looks like I'm going to have to go to a vote if you don't agree to this. I think it's a reasonable request myself, considering the various motions that I've had to rule out of order. I think the mayor speaking. I think this is a good compromise. Now, does someone else want to speak? Councillor J.K.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I suppose there's a lone voice that's objecting, but that doesn't necessarily mean there aren't other elected members who may be objecting as well. But perhaps we might need to listen to the elected member who has, indicated her objection first before we revert. Thanks.
There's nobody indicating to speak here other than yourself so far. Sir Andrew Donnelly.
Thank you, and just a bit of background to everybody. We put forward as a team an emergency motion, which I actually think should be heard as an emergency motion. I don't think there's any reason for it not to be heard as an emergency motion.
I've ruled on that.
I get that, but it is in light of, it's been on the agenda already a month, and there is no guarantee that we'll get to it tonight. And I think in light of everything that's going on in terms of the energy increases, it is looking for the rent increases that we've recently introduced to be reviewed. And I think we had a section on the OPNF where we talked about how the rent increases will impact.
We're not going into all this now. We're not going into all this now. We're either taking the motion or not
that is
at the
why.
appropriate time.
Well, you've looked for speakers.
No, I'm
speaking.
not going into the detail of the motions.
Well, I'm
just,
explaining
we have
why.
to agree when to take it, and everyone can speak then.
But I'm just explaining why we're talking about it here, why we have put it on the agenda as an emergency motion. And
That's
why
ruled on, you can't speak to that. I'm sorry.
Why we are looking for it to be moved, or you are looking for it to be moved up to agenda. And
Okay.
what precipitated the tabling of this motion.
Okay. Right. Councillor Newman.
Mayor, look, I don't necessarily agree with the motion, so we'll talk about it and then make a decision then. I think, the things that are happening now with energy increases, etc., are another story, not necessarily to do with rent increases, but I would hope that it would be heard nearer the end of the meeting rather than at the start.
Councillor Gearan.
We're coming back, Mayor, standing orders and the importance of them being applied. If we take the motion, which I don't have an issue with, are we not in breach of our own standing order where we can't revisit something within 6 months of it being voted on at a meeting?
I'm not sure what you're saying there exactly, but I'm going to Paul Mulville.
No.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to support the proposal that the motion be taken at the start of the meeting. I think you gave us two options there: take it now or take it at the end. I think it would be appropriate to take it now and have it aired at an early stage in the meeting. Thanks.
Just be clear, take it when we start taking motions, not now, after we've done the other council business. So, and then I don't know what Councillor Gearan is, do you know what Councillor is raising there? Something about you can't bring something back after 6 months and take it again. Is that what you're saying?
6 months.
And why are you saying this was down before already? Oh, right, okay. Right, okay, well that's a bit, right, okay. Anyway, all right, where are we at? Evie Tormey, Councillor Evie Tormey, yep.
Yeah, no, I do disagree. I just think we have an agenda here. Let's stick with it. I was just about to get ready to propose somebody for item number 2.
We are sticking with that. We are sticking with that.
That's the next thing.
Yeah, that's okay. We're sticking with normal business, and then we go to the motions, and we vary the agenda, the list of the motions, to either bring it to top of the list or to 15 minutes before the end, which is normal practice. So, if we don't get to it first, by the way, Councillor Quinn, but this is getting a bit tricky now. So, what does the meeting want to do? Sorry, Mary Egan.
Sorry, Mayor, in relation to Councillor Guerin's query, Standing Order 80, states that when any motion or resolution has been disposed of by the Council, it shall not be for any councillor to propose a similar or rescinding motion within a period of 6 months without the consent of not less than 3/4 of the councillors of the Council.
So, yes, Councillor Quinn.
This is the first motion that's been brought in relation, and it's not looking for the scrapping of it, it is looking for a review of it.
Right. Okay. 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 Well, it's my view that I've put it before you. It's a compromise. You know, I kind of like people to have their say. And yes, there are standing orders, and I'm trying to compromise here because I got various motions that were ruled out of order, and I'm asking the room, would you like to consider changing, and this happens regularly, that's okay, we can have a vote on it, would you like to consider changing the agenda to facilitate number 31 earlier or at the end of the meeting? So that's a straightforward answer.
It's out of order.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear it was out of order.
She's told you the diary time.
I'll revert to Mary Egan and see if it's out of order, but I'd just like to point out, we've just had a discussion, it's sitting there at number 31, legitimately on the agenda, in or out of order, it's there. So, Mary Egan.
Right, I'll read the standing order again. That when any motion or resolution has been disposed of by the Council, it shall not be for any councillor to propose a similar or rescinding motion within a period of 6 months without the consent of not less than 3/4 of the councillors of the Council.
Okay, so, well, right. In order of the screen here, Councillor Jimmy Gearan and then Evie Tormey. Jimmy Gearan, did you put your, no? You came up on screen.
Well, I'm saying, Mayor, that if you wish to take it, you have to put it to the floor.
Yes.
And you have to get 3/4 of the votes and then take it.
That sounds like it, all right. And so over to Councillor Tormey and then Bree McDonough. Councillor Tormey.
My understanding of any budgetary type motion is you have to indicate how much money is being taken from where and put to said location. So I just don't understand how that motion is actually on the agenda when it's a significant amount of money that we're talking about.
Okay. All right. Bree McDonough, help.
Yeah, so just on the point of order, I think this is where the Mayor's interpretation of standing orders comes in, is really important. And it's the Mayor's judgment as to whether something is, whether a review consists of an effort to rescind or whether there isn't. It's a discussion on the same topic, but it doesn't actually fall foul of that. And that's your decision, and that's why in any meeting, the chair or the Mayor is the interpreter and final decider of what the standing orders are.
All right, so Councillor, I have 3 more speakers, so we'll have to bring this a conclusion of some sort. Councillor Angela Donnelly.
Just a point of order as well. As far as I know, and I could be wrong, the 2 points, the increase in the rent was due to be implemented in March, and I think it was already put back to April without coming before this chamber. And the motion calls for a pause, doesn't call for a renegotiation, it calls for a pause. So that is not the same thing that we voted on last November.
Okay, Councillor Quinn.
Yeah, no matter how much I'd love for it to be rescinded, I'm not calling for it to be rescinded. I'm looking for it to be paused, which is completely different.
Okay, Councillor Walsh.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I think our discussion at the OPNF is relevant. The motion is on the agenda, and as Councillor McDonough said, the Mayor's ruling as to whether that motion is in order is final, so that's not for the meeting to decide. The only decision for the meeting is whether to vary the agenda or not.
Okay, right. So, I revert back to my original question. Do you want to vary the agenda? And do we have to go to a vote on this? I hear no. So if you want to vote on it, I'll go to the vote. But I'll ask again, do you want to vary the agenda? Is that agreed? No. So vote. Go to vote. Yes, yes. We can cross that bridge when we get to it. But we'll deal with that when we get to the motion. Vote. Voting on whether to vary the agenda or not, to allow the motion to be taken earlier or at the end of the meeting.
The results of the motion are yes 20, abstain 1, no 15.
Okay, so we've agreed to vary the agenda. Pardon? Not that I'm aware of. What? That's a different matter. Are you referring to the... Listen, this will go on forever if you want to keep it going forever. Look at, we've agreed to vary the agenda. When I get to the motion, I'll rule on it. And, well, we'll see. So it's when will the motion be taken now? And it's either taken as the first motion on the list of motions or 15 minutes from the end if we don't reach it in normal course of business. So, look, I'm trying to get it out of the way and take it as the first motion. That's my intention, unless I hear a groundswell of opinion saying no. So there's a list of people with a motion on the agenda. We just agreed to vary the motion. So we're varied. James Humphreys.
The proposer of the motion is agreeable. Perhaps it should be just taken under the Chief Executive's report, as we'll reach that. We're required to reach that.
I don't think so. No, I've made a ruling on that. This is getting all technical now. You're walking into a minefield. No. Right, okay, we'll move on. So we're going to, what are we at here? Let's start the meeting. Where are we? Confirmation and reaffirmation. Have I done well, we've done the apologies. I just want to acknowledge before I start, and I should have done it already, this is Sinead Murphy's first meeting as Director of Operations, and I want to welcome her and wish her well as Director of Operations of Fingal County Council. Well done, Sinead. Okay. Okay, so go on to number 1, confirmation, reaffirmation of minutes of council meeting held on Monday, the 9th of March. So I propose, if someone would second, Kieran Dennison. And then we go on to number 2, 2A, appointment of one member of the Marine and Coastal Management Strategic Policy Committee. Councillor Tommy?
Yeah, I'd like to propose Councillor Tom O'Leary, please.
And seconded by Luke Corkery and Paul Mulville.
I propose Councillor David Healy, please.
Okay, seconded by? Breen McDonough. Right, looks like we've a vote. Any other candidates? No, that's it. So we go put that to a vote. Yes, yes, Councillor Butler.
Between them, or is it more than that?
I don't think so. It's a bit more complicated. I don't know who wants. All right, Evie Tormey.
So Siobhan, Councillor Shovlin got placed on 2 SPCs. She resigned a few meetings ago from one of them, so she's still obliged to obviously be on an SPC. She still is on an SPC. Then subsequently, I think it was Councillor Hopkins then took her place, and then Councillor Mulligan took her place. So there's been a bit of a swap, but it ultimately started with Councillor Shovlin resigning from 2 just to be on 1.
Okay, so go ahead with the vote. How do we do this now? I don't know. You read it out, will you?
Members, just for clarity, when you're voting, green is for Councillor Tom O'Leary and red is for Councillor David Healy. The result of the vote is green, Councillor Tom O'Leary 21, red, Councillor David Healy 14.
Okay, thank you. So we move on then to questions. Questions 3 to 11. Do I need to propose a second? I propose, if somebody would second, Councillor John Walsh. And then, where are we now? Let me see. Report of committees. So, 12A. Strategic Policy Committee Chairperson's Quarterly Report. Is it proposed and second? Proposed by Councillor Kieran Dennison. I second that. B. Reported Balbriggan Rush Luss Services B. Area Committee proposed by Councillor Tony Murphy and seconded by myself, Tom O'Leary. Report of Holt Malahide Services B Area Committee meeting held on Wednesday, 1st of April 26. Proposed by David Healy, seconded by Owen O'Brien. Report of Blanchardstown Mulhuddard Castleknock Ongar Services B Committee meeting held on Thursday, the 2nd of April. Proposed by Councillor John Walsh, seconded by J.K. Onawera. And then, is that the lot? Let me see. Where am I? E. Report of Corporate Policy Group CPG meeting held on Tuesday, 7th of April 2026. Proposed, seconded by Kieran Dennison, Councillor Dennison. And then finally, F. Report of Balbriggan Rush Lusk Sword Services B Area Committee meeting proposed by Councillor Joe Newman, and I second that. And then 13, Financial Matters. 13A, all of our draft, consideration of draft annual financial statement 2025 and authorisation of additional expenditure.
Thanks, Mayor. There just the AFS is just for your noting, so that will be audited, and the audit report with the AFS will come back later on in the year. The other report then just briefly outlines what's in the AFS. So there's 345 million spent through the revenue account and £500 million through the capital account. There's some additional expenditure just for your approval. That's where items were under forecast in the outturn. And within that, there's additional 1.2 million, 282 million, which has been brought back to you to allocate. So we're proposing that 750,000 is allocated into operational works programme in light of the poor weather in the first few months of the year and the impact that that would have had on road infrastructure. Additional capital transfers into heritage properties and libraries. That's in line with our capital plan and the delivery of those projects. And there's a small allocation to arts, and that's just to fund out on some arts grants that weren't paid out prior to the year end. So that means that can be paid out this year without any impact on the arts budget. Thank you.
Okay, that's for noting, and for those that attended OPNF, we had a good discussion of this. So are there any comments before we note it?
The expenditure needs to be agreed.
The expenditure needs to be agreed. Okay, right, so it needs to be proposed. Okay, proposed by Councillor Boland, seconded by Councillor J.K. Kelly. Yes? Right. Have I got the right name? I get them all mixed up. What is it? DJ Kelly. So then we go on to, that's agreed, is that agreed? Yes. Yeah, so go on to B, Annual Financial Statement 2025.
So even let's say it'll come back to, it'll be audited now, and the audit report will come back to you later on in the year once that's complete.
So same procedure, is it proposed? Noted. Noted. Okay. Now we're on to 14A. Sorry, proposed disposal of properties. 14A, notice of proposed grant away leave, Moranview, Skerries, County Dublin, Ishgaren, Colville House, 2426 Talbot Street, Mountjoy, Dublin 1, proposed. And someone would second that. Seconded by Owen O'Brien. That agreed? Agreed? Fair play, Mary. Agreed. I hope the rest of you agree. And then on the second one, I have a motion here. So this 14B is notice of proposed grant of way leave at Barry Sparks Swords, County Dublin, to Bowvale Developments, Unlimited Company, 27 Dublin Road, Miltonsfield, Swords, County Dublin. And we have a motion in from Councillor J. Humphreys. I don't know if it has to go up on the screen. I'll read it out. That approval of the way leave is conditional on Clause 10 being strengthened to require active coordination with the Council's roads section in place of notice alone for the duration of the R132 and Metrolink related works includes language that permits the Executive the right to direct scheduling and require postponement where necessary. So I'm going to go to John Quinlivan on that one.
If Councillor Humphreys doesn't want to speak to the motion, I can just say this: what's the content of the motion will be dealt with through the road opening licence process, and there's no issue with us writing that into the contract to strengthen it in the manner the councillor hopes.
Okay. Okay, go to Councillor Humphreys now.
No, I'm thankful that the reason I was putting down the motion because Swords is going to be plagued with an awful lot of traffic chaos, especially during the R132 project and when Metro eventually and hopefully actually gets properly motoring away. And for any way leave or any road opening licence coming towards the council, I would be again proposing similar motions that the language is tightened, that the responsibility will fall on the council to set a date and time rather than the whoever is seeking to open the roads has leeway that may obstruct without us knowing traffic in the area. So I thank you for the Executive's response and I accept their response.
Okay, so then we're on to, we have to agree this now, so we're on to 14B, which is, as read out there, proposed grant of way leave of Barry Sparks Swords, County Dublin. Is that agreed, including the motion that has been before us? And yeah, agreed. Okay, thank you. So we're on to roads now next. So 15A, Barnageira Cove, Skerries Phase 3. This was brought before the area committee, and I'd like to propose. Yeah. What? I get that. No. All right. Do we get a proposal? Sorry. 14B. Someone proposed 14B. The Barry Sparks. Joe Newman, and seconded by J.K. Kelly. J.K. No, wrong again. Hold on to get me the list. TJ Kelly. Anyway, so is that agreed formally? Yes, agreed. Grant. So now we're on to the roads. So 15A. Barnageira Cove Phase 3, Skerries. This was brought before our area committee, and I'd like to propose it. I don't know if you want to see it. It's taken in charge of, and if anyone wants to raise queries on it. So I'm proposing it. Would someone second it? Seconded by Mary McCamley. Sorry. I'm tired today. Anyway, so is that agreed? Or Brendan, do you want to speak? Brendan Ryan.
Brief comment, it is agreed. Some of us from the local councillors would have got an email from the Residents Committee yesterday and probably today with a range of issues that they saw this being relevant to. But Colin Gallagher has just responded to them himself, indicating what this is about. Please note the building control can only make a developer bring the estate up to the taken in charge standard. So he's explained what the process is, and hopefully the other matters we can deal with differently in due course.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's agreed, and I received the same email, and the representation's gone in to the CRM system to deal with the issues listed. Okay, is that agreed then? Agreed? Yes? And did we get, I propose in a second, that's grand. So now we go on to Semple Woods, Phase 1, Dunabate. I need someone to propose that. Karina Johnson, seconded by Owen Dockrell. And is this agreed? Agreed. Great. And now we're on to number 16, Part 11 of the Planning Act 2000, Part 8 of the Local Government Planning and Development Regulations 2001 as bracket amended for the proposed demolition of one dwelling and the construction of 4 dwellings and all associated site works at Malahide Road, Malahide, County Dublin. Do we want to agree this, or do we want a presentation? Anyone? What's your view, councillors? Agreed. Councillor Healy?
Yeah, Chair, I'd like to propose this, but I have a few comments I'd like to make as well, if that's okay.
Okay.
We had a very constructive discussion at the area committee, and one of the submissions that had come in was recommending a higher density on the site, and I think we should approve this today, but I'd also like to encourage the executive to consider a higher density on this site. I think it could take a couple of 2-storey buildings instead of just 4 1-storey buildings, and we could be providing more housing by doing that. So that's my recommendation.
Right, we get some clarity on that. You've proposed it, and Breen McDonough has seconded it. Councillor Ryan, yes.
I think we should have at least a short presentation on this.
Okay.
We have certain statutory work to do as a full council. I think it's important that we see it through to the end. So I'd like to see at least a short presentation.
That's okay. Yeah, and Councillor Joan Hopkins.
Yeah, just to echo what Councillor David Healy has said there, we did get a presentation on this, and we felt, well, some of us felt that it was a missed opportunity. It's rare enough that a site like this would come up, but it would be an opportunity for us to have higher density, at least 2 stories in this site. Thanks.
Okay, so Councillor Jimmy Gearan.
That clarification, because if it's a thing that we go and seek higher density, does that mean we have to start the process again, which could again delay this for another 6 or 12 months when we're anxious to try and get these houses built? So I think that's very important as well, and did come up at the area committee. So if that could be clarified by the management, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so can we get a reasonably short report or whatever, up to yourselves, and answer the queries that have been put there on the higher density and Jimmy Gearan's question about whether an agreement to increase the density would delay the whole project and bring you back to square one on planning. Okay, if you can clarify that. Thank you.
Well, if we had to redesign it, we would have to go back to the beginning and go through all our internal processes again and screenings for a new design. And yes. Okay, so we'll have the presentation.
Okay, so this is a presentation of the CE report for the demolition of 1 dwelling and construction of 4 dwellings at Malahide Road. So the project went on public consultation from the 6th of February until the 24th of March. We presented it at the ACM on the 1st of April, and we're taking it to you here today. So in terms of the CE report, we'll describe the proposed development, we'll evaluate it, we'll list the submissions or observations received, we'll summarise the issues raised and the CE responses and the recommendation. So the site is a brownfield site with an existing single-storey bungalow and associated shed structures. It's located on the Malahide Road between Malahide Village and Concealy, just close to the junction of Malahide Road and the entrance to Myra Manor and Feltram Road. So the site is zoned residential. The Greater Dublin Area GDA cycle network plan is shown to the front of the site along Malahide Road. It's in the outer public safety zone associated with Dublin Airport. Most of the site lies within Dublin Airport Noise Zone B, while a small portion of the southern end of the site lies within Noise Zone A. So it's a brownfield site. As I said, it contains a bungalow. There's a shared vehicular access route to the southwest corner of the site, which is shared with the residential property to the south. There is an existing bus stop to the front of the site, and there's an existing cast iron water pump of artistic and social value to the front of the site along Malahide Road. So the net developable area is 0.14 of a hectare. We're providing 4 dwellings at a density of 29 units per hectare. So we're proposing 4 2-bed single-storey universal design semi-Ds, and we're retaining the shared site entrance off Malahide Road. We have 5 car parking spaces, including universally accessible spaces and EV charging. We've a 2.5 cycleway reservation to the front of Malahide Road, and we're relocating the existing cast iron water pump outside of the cycleway reservation along the proposed new boundary to the front of the site. We're including SUDs, including a linear drained bias swale to the front of the site, and our open space provision is at 23%. It will include lawns, paved areas and seating. So all the units follow the minimum floor space standards and individual room space standards in Fingal Development Plan and the guidelines. They're all designed to ensure that people can safely and conveniently approach and gain access to all the units in compliance with the building regulations, and direct access to the private rear garden is provided to each dwelling, which can provide secure bicycle parking. So this slide presents the public-facing elevations from the Malahide Road and from the car parking area to the south of the site. The single-storey semi-detached dwellings, they're in keeping with the established scale and rural character along Malahide Road and at Streamstown Cottages, which are all single-storey. And the development proposes a palette of high-quality and low-maintenance materials, including brick and self-coloured render facades, tile roofs to the houses, permeable paving to parking areas, and the windows will be alu-clad and will match the colour of the rainwater goods. And the requirement for nearly zero energy buildings and renewable sources of energy will be addressed in the detailed design stage. So all the dwellings will be designed and constructed to comply with all the relevant legislation and best practice in Ireland and listed on this slide. And connections to public utilities are available on Malahide Road. So in terms of evaluating the proposed development, following internal consultation and review, the preliminary planning report included a number of recommendations, and these recommendations have been incorporated prior to the project being put out on public display. So 6 submissions or observations were received within the statutory period. 5 of these are valid, and 1 was withdrawn as this was a duplicate. The valid submissions were received from those noted. So in summary, issues raised related to planning and general matters, transport and road matters, conservation and heritage matters, and airport noise matters. And full responses to these issues are included in the CE report. In relation to the density of the development, several key factors and constraints have influenced the site layout and density achieved, including the existing local character of the single-storey cottages along Malahide Road and opposite the site, the Greater Dublin Area GDA Cycle Network Plan, a 2.5 cycleway reservation is required, which reduces our net developable area. Car parking standards, additional dwellings would increase the car parking requirements, which cannot be accommodated on the site, and the universal design requirement for social housing, the Dublin Airport Outer Public Safety Zone and rural density requirements. And it's a Fingal development policy in respect of infill development requires that existing character of an area be respected, and the planning section has confirmed the development is acceptable in terms of density. So the site is within Zone 2 in terms of car parking. The provision of 5 car parking spaces in total meets the development plan standards. Another submission raised issues with the vehicular access point, but this is not a new access point. It's an existing point, and it will be shared with the adjacent property. And the proposal also provides direct access to rear gardens where bicycle parking can be accommodated. In relation to the pump located on site, the historic pump, it's proposed to retain and relocate it into the new proposed boundary, and this relocation is intended to protect and preserve the water pump in advance of any future development works, and the heritage and conservation sections have been consulted about the proposals and they have no objection, subject to the adequate protection and repair of the pump during construction phase. To address noise management objectives, a comprehensive inward noise impact assessment has been prepared by consultants, and the DAA has acknowledged its findings. In line with the DAA's recommendation, the Aircraft Noise Authority has been notified, and to address enhanced disclosure concerns, Fingal will adequately advise prospective occupiers that the development is located within the noise zone pertaining to Dublin Airport. And to address post-planning compliance concerns, Fingal will carry out compliance reports verifying the implementation and effectiveness of noise mitigation measures prior to occupation. So in terms of the recommendation, the issues raised were reviewed and addressed, and analysis confirms the development complies with the statutory requirements of the Part 11 process. It's sensitive to the context and surrounding properties, accords with the zoning and objective national and regional policy, site characteristics, internal reports and all submissions and observations received, and constitutes proper planning and sustainable development for the area. It's therefore recommended that in accordance with Section 179 of the Planning and Development Act 2000, the elected members approve the proposed development as detailed in the plans and particulars placed on public display. Thank you. That brings us to the end of the presentation. Happy to take questions.
Okay, I've one councillor speaking here, but I know, look at if this was varied, I'd have to basically go back to the beginning, and that question was answered. Was the question on density answered? Councillor Healy and others raised the density question, and can you refer to that? And I do have, I'm going to go to Councillor Donnelly. I do have a question on density. I noticed 29 TPH, whatever that means, TPH, and compact settlements are now 40 to 80 in our region, I understand, if I'm right. And I do know the edge of town and villages are lower, and there's provision for that. But if you could, what is the recommended density for that area? So I don't know if you can go to the point that David Healy raised and was raised at the area committee. And I'm going to go to Angela Donnelly. So if the architects could answer those questions, and we go to Angela Donnelly. Oh, Angela, you gone? No, you still hand up here. Yeah, you have. Right. So can you answer those two questions first, and then go to Angela?
Okay, so an early analysis of the site was carried out, and in relation to the density, given the bioretention swale requirements to get a greenfield runoff rate, the actual site developable area is the net area and allows for only 4 units. Coupled with that, the provision of 5 car parking spaces is required. We can't get any more units on the site than already proposed. There is a need in the area for universal design. It will allow for downsizing and opening up other houses and properties in the area. So the proposed houses are also single story. The location along that particular point, and particularly along Malahide Road and Streamstown Cottages, is predominantly single story, as you can see there on the left of the picture, and across the road single story and dormers. So we're in keeping with infill development policy requirements in terms of height, scale and density.
Okay, and what is the recommended compact settlement density for that area? 40 to 80 or different?
For a suburban location, it's 40 to 80. In this specific circumstance, given the location and the context, the density is less, and so therefore we propose that.
Okay, I understand the reasons. Thank you. So now, Angela Donnelly.
Thanks a lot. Just a couple of questions about the existing premises there. It looks derelict. Is it I take it that there's no one living in it? And was there an opportunity to incorporate that into the design? Thanks.
Councillor Brian McDonough.
Yeah, I mean, if there'd been a higher density proposed on this site, I'd be quite happy to support it, and if one could be done quickly, I think that would be reasonable. But I think particularly in regard to things like the aircraft noise, and also in terms of velocity of trying to get houses built quickly as well, I'm very happy to go along with the existing proposal as is here. So I think I'm happy to support it as it is here. Thanks.
Okay, so that's all the speakers I have. So, Angela, did you raise a question there? Or yes? So can I get an answer for Angela? Councillor Donnelly, sorry.
So in relation to Councillor Donnelly's query, the site is derelict, the house is derelict for some time now. Early analysis, as I said, of the site, the bungalow is located in the middle of the site, and it doesn't lend itself to extension or conversion into semi-D, and so in order to maximise the density, we've proposed to demolish it and 4 new dwellings.
Okay, so is this proposal, which is before us, proposed and seconded, agreed? Agreed. Okay, we move on to the next item, which is number 17, approval of anti-litter, anti-graffiti grant scheme. And yeah, okay. Do you want a presentation on this? It's been, yes, okay. So can we have a presentation, please, on this item?
Members, this has been to the SPC and the CPG, and Jennifer will go through the presentation and deal with any queries. Thanks.
Good evening, members. I'm Jennifer Mushide. I'm the Environmental Awareness Officer, and I'm here today looking for approval for the Anti-Litter and Anti-Graffiti Grant. The Anti-Litter and Anti-Graffiti Grant is administered by the Environmental Awareness Officer annually to support community groups across Fingal in delivering projects that enhance public spaces and promote civic pride, ultimately reducing and eliminating litter and graffiti. So funded activities may include local litter cleanups, painting estate walls or murals, introducing biodiversity features in areas prone to litter and dumping, public awareness campaigns on litter and cigarette butt disposal. So these initiatives help foster cleaner environments and stronger community engagement. All applications are assessed in accordance with the criteria. So the criteria is that groups must be based in Fingal and part of the PPN. And if the project involves planting, then prior approval is required from the Operations Department. The applications will then be scored on responses to specific questions, which include the proposed initiatives, the level of community engagement, awareness raising, promotion of Fingal, and funding needs as well. Following the application approval, 50% of the grant is paid up front. Exceptions will be made in special cases to fully fund projects from the outset. And when the project is completed, the group submits a short report with some photos and receipts to receive the remaining funding. The timeline, so the grant was advertised to community groups from the 20th of February. The closing date is this Friday, April the 17th. Then in May, the applications are assessed. In June, the groups will be advised of the outcome, and then the projects are completed for the end of October. Then in November, Fingal County Council must submit the budget allocation form to the Department of Climate, Energy and Environment. So there's a wide variety of local groups who are eligible for funding. Any group from community groups, residents association, youth groups, men's and women's sheds, sports clubs, scout groups, tenants associations and tidy towns committees. So basically any local group with an idea to reduce litter, prevent graffiti or enhance their community is welcome to apply. And the maximum funding per application is €1,500. So the Anti-Litter Anti-Graffiti Grant is co-funded by the Department of Climate, Energy and Environment, who have contributed around €30,000 in recent years, and then Fingal County Council, who provide additional funding support to include as many projects as possible. So a quick overview of 2025, we had 41 applications, which was an increase on the previous year. 40 of those projects were approved. They requested a total of €55,703 and we allocated €41,047. Ultimately, we distributed €36,098. The reason that it was a little bit under was that one group did not engage in completing the project in the end, and then there was some underspend with the other groups also. So recognising the significant volunteer effort and community benefit delivered through these projects, Fingal aims to increase its contribution to €20,000, bringing the total fund available to €50,000. This additional support will come from the environmental awareness budget. And I've just included some sample projects. So the first one is Bayside Community Centre. So last year their project addressed their concerns around littering in the Bayside area, and they organised litter picks. They had some creative workshops. So there was art and poetry, public education displays, And this initiative brought together residents of all ages, combining artistic expression with environmental action. We also have Clean Up Corduff here, so they worked in partnership with St. Patrick's Senior School. The pupils planted flowers, collected seeds, harvested blackcurrants for jam, prepared cuttings, and planned new vegetable and pumpkin beds. So the project here builds on pride, strengthens connection to local green spaces, and helps deter littering. And the final project I have here is Lusk Community Council. So for their third year, they organised a collaborative mural project uniting local young people with a professional graffiti artist to transform a public wall into an engaging educational artwork. So this initiative promoted civic engagement, creative expression, environmental awareness, positive messaging about sustainability and responsibility, and it also enhanced the appearance of the area while providing a constructive outlet for youth creativity. So thank you for your time, and I'll take any questions.
Okay, Councillor Evelyn Tormey.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and apologies for missing this at the area committee. I have a big concern about just the level of graffiti that's around the area at the moment. And I feel like, even for example with this, it's a very strict criteria that you're putting on people. And I'd just be curious, for example, was it Lusk where the school kids were, like, who was the group then that was registered with the PPN? Because I assume the school isn't, as to how that partnership got involved. And I wonder, like, is there a way of supporting schools for kids, you know, TY projects for them to get out and do things, to open it up a little bit? Because I do feel like there is a big problem out there, and a lot of it is on privately owned property, which comes to the next thing. So is there anything that we can do for people who actually own property that may not be in a position where, well, I suppose first of all to afford to pay for paint and a painter, and secondly maybe they're just very worn down by the repetitive nature of some places of having to keep going back and doing it over and over again. Because I do think we need to open it up and look at a kind of it in a more private sense in terms of those buildings. Yeah, like the Bayside is a good example because they do tremendous work. I see them around myself in terms of litter picking and stuff. But I mean, there's a big problem there. Even the beautiful murals that got painted, covered in graffiti and stuff like that. And so I think if we can maybe expand it out and come up with bigger ideas to include more people, because it's always like the same groups that are doing Trojan work in the communities, and it is a much bigger issue than that. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Joe Newman.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, no, thanks very much for the presentation. Just a couple of questions. One was the groups that may not have the funding to fund it all themselves and come in for the grant. And the other one is the all need to be members of the PPN. Is that correct? Thanks.
Okay, that's all the speakers I have at the minute. Just on the three projects you put up there, can you indicate roughly how much they got in each one? It doesn't need to be precise, but give us an idea. And now we'll go back to the management for a response. Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Tormey, just with regard to the group in Lusk, absolutely, you're right, that it wasn't, sorry, it was the Lusk Community Council organised that, and it will often be other groups like that that will bring the teenagers on board with different Foróige groups maybe, or working with a local secondary school and so on. So depending on the area as well, or the community group who's taking it on board, they will be usually working collaboratively with community groups, and that's the whole idea as well, that we really want to see collaboration on this, that we do want community groups going across, working in engagement in education, behavioural change, and giving that sense of onus as well. So for example, last year as well, we had in Portmarnock as well, the bathing shelters there were painted as well, and they worked with the local community school there as well, and they got other community groups on board, and there was that whole cross collaboration, that fostering that pride of place and everything else. So I think when we work with youth groups, definitely, or young people as well, they have more of a sense of respect for it and hopefully don't end up tagging it. And when a mural artist comes on board as well, or graffiti artist, they often talk about that as well, and you know why tagging is an issue and so on. We also we also offer free paint as well to community groups and schools as well through the Rediscovery Centre as well. So any community group or any school can apply for that through the Environmental Awareness Programme as well, and often they will use that just for general cleaning up. And we see loads of different groups as well that are doing lots of Trojan work, as you say, continuously, but they're always working on new projects, and we're always encouraging new groups to come on board as well. And that's why we're looking for more funding this year, because it's growing in momentum and we're having new groups coming on board all of the time as well. And although this is not open directly to schools, the idea is that the community groups will work with the schools together.
Fingal criteria about the schools?
That is, I'm not sure on that actually. Because what we've always done is that we've encouraged community groups to work with schools, but not for the schools to apply directly, because we offer other things to the schools as well. With regard to Councillor Newman's questions as well, yes, so there will be some new groups as well that are just setting up and they mightn't have any reserves of funding. So we certainly will try and accommodate them and give them the full amount of funding up front so that they can get engaged in their project as well. So if there are any groups that need the funding up front, we will try and accommodate them. And then yes, the groups have to be part of the PPN, just I suppose for insurance purposes as well and accountability. And then Councillor O'Leary as well, because we were so oversubscribed last year as well, we were only able to give any group 80% of the funding. So the groups were marked, so groups got between 70% and 80% of the funding. So the most that any group got last year was 1,200. So I'm kind of imagining those three groups that we had there would have received that amount.
Okay, that's great. John, I have two more speakers, and then we'll conclude this. John Burchell.
I'm just wondering how it relates to the council's policy on public art. There was a question in there from one of the councillors, and it seemed to be quite restrictive, you know, in that regard. Is this considered public art if, you know, you're putting in a mural with a young person's group to kind of discourage messy graffiti, like? How does that relate? Do they have to meet all of the criteria for a public art project, or is it more relaxed than that?
Okay, and then Evie Tormey.
Just to bring it back, just procedurally, like, is it possible to, for us to put down a motion and change the criteria now? It kind of comes back to maybe the uncertainty around who's actually setting this criteria. And because I think it might be interesting to open it up a little bit.
So we'll go back. David Story. Well, David, I don't know if you want your mic, go for it.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back to Jennifer.
The scheme has been operational in the council for a long number of years, and the criteria set down by the council. But obviously you have to be conscious of the funding, that it meets the criteria that the department also set down. So what we tried to do this year was that because we've been oversubscribed for the amount of applications, we've increased the funding. But there is criteria that we use for local, being PPN, but obviously there's criteria in the department, and we use that together then for the purposes of the scheme. Like you have asked, could you put down a motion or you could put down information in relation to the scheme? At this stage, we've been through the SPC and the CPG. We haven't looked at that in that context of changing the criteria for the scheme at this stage. Just in relation to the arts, this is more lax than the normal arts schemes that are available, because they're obviously set down in criteria. So if you have an arts project, it's set down through the ETCD department and the arts projects.
Okay, so that's the end of the contributions. So this needs to be proposed and seconded. And is it approved? I propose it. If someone would seconded by Councillor Dara Butler. Is it agreed? Agreed. Thank you. So we're on to number 18, draft anti-fraud and corruption policy. Mayor Egan.
Mayor, this is just an updated policy which is broadly similar to the existing policy that was agreed here in February 2024. So it's just an updated one. It kind of provides more detail in relation to fraud, the prevention of fraud and corruption, and a bit more around protected disclosures, ethics registrars, etc. But it's basically similar to the one we have in place already.
Okay, I've no speakers indicating, so I'd like to propose it if someone would second it. Seconded by Kieran Dennison. Is that agreed? Okay, thank you. And now we go on to number 19, Fingal Artist Support Scheme. John, do you want to indicate?
A relative of mine is proposed. So.
Right. Okay, so Councillor Smith just excusing himself from the room as per procedure and standing orders on this item. So now, do we need are we going for a presentation on this, or what's the position?
We don't have a presentation, Mayor.
Okay.
I mean, we have the Arts Officer and the Deputy Arts Officer here if there needs to be any questions, but this is €260,000 being given an artist support scheme to the value of to 64 applicants.
Okay, so I propose that if someone will second it. Seconded by Councillor Tony Murphy. Is that agreed? Okay, thank you. So now where are we now? Chief Executive's report. Yes? No, did I miss one? Sorry, 20. Number 20, Draft Fingal County Council Annual Report 2025. Who's taking that one? Or how does this work? Mary Egan, right?
That's me, Mayor. This is the annual report for 2025, and it's put together in accordance with Section 221 of the Local Government Act 2001. Outlines the requirement to prepare and adopt the annual report, and we've outlined the performance and functions of the local authority. It has been circulated to all the members and includes the detail of Fingal's performance and activities during the year.
Okay. Don't know if anyone wants to raise any queries on that. Councillor Donnelly.
Just a couple of questions. There were several figures there, like there's a lot of information on it, but there's several figures that are missing, and it says that they're to be provided by the DRHE, the DHLGH, the Housing Delivery Coordination Office. I was just wondering, are those figures going to be put into that report? They are. And also, it says the average time to re-tenant houses is 37.75 weeks. Well, it also says 36.99. I'm not sure which one, which seems very long. And if somebody could explain that, and the average cost of getting a house ready for reletting is 21,170, whereas I know the tenant in situ scheme was giving us 11,000. So, you know, which one is closer to what it costs? I know it's average, so there might be much higher than that and much lower, but it seems very high. And that's grand. Thank you.
Okay, back to Mary Egan.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. I'll just address the stats that are missing from the various bodies there, and those will be included before the final document is published, and we can circulate that prior to publication.
Okay, and go to Paul Carroll and the housing query, reletting and tenant in situ costs.
Yeah, so we were allocated 11,000 from the tenant in situ. We had always said that was far too low for what was needed to be done generally in terms of those properties that we acquired. 21,000 is the average cost in terms of what we are doing for our relet works, and there would be a range of different interventions on them. Some would be minimal enough, but some of them would be quite extensive, up to and including nearly. There might be some of the ones in recent years have had significant structural and fire damage even. So they are average numbers, but there's a broad spread of costs within that overall average figure.
Okay, so I've no more speakers. So, Patrick Quinlan.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just flowing through the document there very quick. It says that there was 123 clinics held at IPAS in Ukraine, BOTB accommodation centres by the local authority integration team. Is there any way we can be made aware of exactly what information was shared at those meetings?
Okay, I don't know who can take that.
Yeah, we can circulate the kind of information that's given as those. That's no problem, Councillor.
Okay, right. So I've no more speakers. So I'd like to propose the report, if someone would second. Draft annual report. Anyone second that? Councillor Kieran Dennison. So is that agreed? Agreed, thank you. Now we're on to number 21, Chief Executive's report. So we'll go to the Chief Executive.
Thanks, Mayor. Just to add my own welcome to Sinead and to wish her luck in the new role. I'm going to just take the rest of the report as read, and we are here as a management team to answer your queries.
Okay, so straight to queries and questions. Councillors, if you want to raise some items, Councillor Breda Hanafi.
Thank you, and I want to thank the Chief Executive for the report. I'm going to speak about the housing. We all know that the homeless figures are just staggering, absolutely staggering, and the amount of families that are in homeless accommodation for long term, and there's been numerous reports done how it's affecting children, their development, both physically and mentally. But I just want to share with you an email I received from a young girl of 16. I'm dealing with a family. It won't take me 2 minutes. Me and my family are currently living in, she says where they are. We've been here for over 3 years. I'm emailing you because myself and my family are all helpless and don't know what to do anymore. Our living conditions are horrible. We start school at 8:30. Our school is in Tyrrellstown, Dublin 15. We have to wake up at 4:30 a.m. So we all have to shower, get dressed, and there's only one bathroom for 6 people. We have to leave the house at 7:30 in order to be on school in time, which means we get very little sleep. There is nowhere for us to get dressed, so we have no privacy. In our household, we have 2 teen girls, 2 teen boys. We have to change in front of each other, which is something we do not feel comfortable doing, especially at our age while we are going through physical changes. In our room, there is nowhere to do homework or to study or even anywhere to sit. 2 of us are soon sitting our leaving cert and 1 junior cert. Our living conditions do not allow us to study like needed to accomplish our academic goals, which these are important with the state exams coming up. Even when we do try to study in our beds or even get a little bit of sleep before school, we hear kids from different rooms screaming, crying and running at night. We have no tap water that has drinking. We have no tap that has drinking water, so we have to drink the water from from the sink in the bathroom. Our room is so cluttered, there's nowhere for us to store our school stuff, books, school bags and folders. We have nowhere to store our dirty dishes, our dirty clothes. We have no kettle, no toaster or anything to make a breakfast. Thank you for taking time to read this email, and me and my family, we hope to hear from you very soon. Thanks. I just thought I'd share that with you because we've just...
That's okay. We've only 1 minute per speaker on this, but I think it's important to hear things like that. Thank you. So, Councillor Karina Johnson.
On the 14th of March last, Donabate had its inaugural Patrick's Festival and Parade, which was very well attended, actually, 3,500 people, over 1,000 participants on the day. It was a fantastic event. I just want to thank the Chief Executive, Mr Quinlivan, and all the team, Paul Barnes in particular, for all the support, and hopefully it'll be the first of many festivals and parades in the Donabate area. We were actually blown away by the turnout and the response from the community of people outside the Donabate area. So thank you for that. Just 2 questions. Broadmeadow Way, Greenway, look, I note in the report and also actually from a recent ACM response that it appears that it may be delayed until early 2028. Look, I understand the complexity of this project and, you know, there's been an awful lot of difficulties. It's multi-agency, but I'm just wondering, can we have an update on why it's been delayed, and look, is it going to be further delayed? And second question, Portrane Road Enhancement Scheme, can we have an update on when that project is going to commence? Has the contract been awarded? I'm looking forward to seeing that project hopefully start as quickly as possible. Thank you.
That's great. I said a minute, it's a minute and a half each. So it's Councillor Angela Donnelly.
Thank you, and it was great to see all the different Patrick's Day parades, but one event caught my eye, and that was the trip to New York. And I was just wondering, was that agreed? Is that something that gets agreed by the Economic Enterprise and Tourism Development SPC? And could we have more information on the trip? Like how many people went, how much did it cost? How did the meetings go that were held to strengthen the council's links with stakeholders, but most of them were Irish? And is the trip reviewed? Because it would be very interesting. I think most members here would be interested to get a report on it. Thank you.
Councillor Joan Hopkins.
Yeah, thank you. Just obviously with the ongoing cost of fuel, we had the climate change SPC presentation of cycling and pedestrian schemes for 2025, and we only produced 500 metres of footpath and 3 metres of 3 kilometres, of cycle lanes in 2005. Now I know there is projects, some of them been delayed, but I'm just wondering, are we planning to do a COVID-style emergency rollout of temporary bike lanes on agreed routes, because we're moving at a glacial pace? I want to ask about the voids, the social housing that we have. We have on the CE's report in letting, relet and unavailable. I was at a meeting in Malahide earlier today, and somebody pointed out a house, a council house, they said has been empty for a year, and I just got an email from somebody to say about another council house that has been boarded up for 2 years. It's a housing emergency. What is going on? Was there an update on the meeting for Portmarnock Pool on Friday? Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Councillor John Smith.
Thank you. Yeah, just a few quick questions. Just in relation to, thank you for the update on Swords Cultural Quarter. I'm aware that the Swords Library is due to move when construction is complete. I'm just interested in do we own the current library facility next to JC's? Do we lease it, and is there any plans for its use after the move? One question regarding planning enforcement, not speaking about any specific cases or that, but I wanted to know if there was anything in the local policy or national guidance that precludes the use of shipping or converted shipping containers on any lands when it comes to planning. Another question in relation to, well, firstly, I want to commend the Council on its efforts in relation to April being World Autism Acceptance and Awareness Month. It's great to see the training that is being offered out to staff. It's definitely needed. We have one little thing we can work on is the lighting up of the buildings blue. That's something we need to discuss with the community. It's not really an accepted symbol anymore. It's associated with an organisation that has some very questionable background to it. But my question is more in relation to both the autism strategy and the access strategy. Could we get an update on when we may be seeing the contents of them? Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Malachy Quinn.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the report. I just note the parking fines and the inclusion of Drogheda Street and the main street in Balbriggan. I had calls from residents in St Paul's Crescent in relation to parking on double yellow lines outside of the primary care centre. I have been informed by Fingal that the parking wardens will include that in their area. I'm just looking for clarification on that. I had spoke to the parking warden today and had been informed that she hadn't been informed of this. Then just in relation to the March Housing Expo is probably the best, most positive way I can describe the trip to the south of France. I'm just looking to see, did Fingal have a representation and with the Minister for Housing at the Housing Expo, and if they had, will there be a cost benefit analysis done of that trip, and what benefits has it come, has materialised from Fingal County Council's invitation?
Councillor Tom Kidd.
Thanks, Mayor, and I want to congratulate Fingal on the wonderful presentation on St Patrick's Day in Blanchetown. It was a great turnout, and well done to all the volunteers and everybody who took part in all the clubs in the area. Also, I want to ask an update on Kellystown Cemetery at the moment. Is it near finished, or people are inquiring about it? Also, is there any feedback on the new Barnhill Link Road, which was opened there recently? Is there any complaints or any people traffic-wise, is it being used? And finally, I'm just wondering about the Harstown Park there. When is the child play area? Is it Part 8? Is it at what stage is it at? Thank you.
Councillor Brian McDonough.
Yeah, just want to thank the Chief Exec for meeting the PSLC in relation to the the emergency and the ongoing emergency, and just see if we can get a perspective on acknowledgement in view of the reliance of the county on the PSLC pool for the provision of swimming in our sports order, and strategies that there's an acknowledgement there, the importance of it as a public good. Thanks.
Councillor James Humphreys.
Thank you, Mayor. I noticed the phase 2 of the Swords Western Distributed Road has begun with an expected kind of completion date of 2027. I just kind of note that when this was originally launched in June 2025, it was expected to be finished an awful lot sooner than that. If memory serves, it was 18 months altogether. So was there anything that was shown up in the scoping exercise that caused this delay? Or could you kind of, A, is there a delay? And B, what was the cause of the delay?
Councillor Joe Newman.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I just want to compliment the Chief Executive and our tree officer for hosting our President on Tree Week on the, I think it was the 8th of March. And I think it was, a very good occasion, and it was absolutely fantastic to see the interest from the President in what we're doing to try in Fingal to increase tree cover. I spoke to her personally, and I mentioned about the South Woodland Association, and she encouraged me to keep up the good work. Just on regards to the tree giveaway as such, I think there's 8,000 native and non-native species to residents for planting their own gardens during National Tree Week, and total since 2019 over 60,000, and that's fantastic. But we also have to consider also what we're doing ourselves as a council as regards to continue to plant trees to protect the environment, and to just do what it says here about helping people's health. And I just like to say that. Thank you.
Councillor Mary McCamley.
I note in the manager's report about the artwork for Harry Reynolds Road, and I'm asking, has there been anything done about Bertie Donnelly, who was also an Olympian cyclist in Mulhuddard? I already had a motion down and had a wonderful email from his granddaughter thanking me and sending on the letter to the council asking for support for Bertie Donnelly and something in. So I haven't heard anything since. I've even put my name down on the naming committee, and I put in and asked for requests and nothing. So Harry Reynolds, fair enough. Bertie Donnelly doesn't seem anything. Okay, thank you.
Well done, Councillor. Councillor John Walsh.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mayor, and thanks to the Chief Executive for the report. Just to follow up and just to thank the events team for all the work on the St. Patrick's Day parade in Blanchardstown. I think it was probably the best attended parade in the village that I've seen so far, so that was really positive. I just looking at the Royal Canal, I note the Royal Canal Greenway is mentioned in the report, and there's quite a detailed discussion of, I suppose, or a detailed account of discussions with Waterways Ireland and also with Irish Rail. So I'm just, I suppose, asking when is it proposed to apply for planning permission to uncommission Planola with the environmental impact assessment? And has a letter been received? I mean, it says agreement has been reached with Waterways Ireland. Has a letter of consent been received from Waterways Ireland to proceed with the project on their land? Then I just want to welcome the work that has been done on Granard Bridge, the proposed pedestrian and cycle link at Granard Bridge, Castleknock. Very positive that the Roselawn Junction has been included in the scheme to improve accessibility for pedestrians and cyclists. It is quite a dangerous bridge. And again, I'm just trying to get a sense of the timeline. I realize it's now entering preliminary design. Is that regarded as a kind of a 2-year project, a 3-year project? Like roughly, is there an indicative completion date on it? And finally, just want to fully support what my colleague, Councillor McCamley, said about Bertie Donnelly. Thanks a million.
Councillor Cahill Haughey.
Thanks for the report. And my question, I presume, is for Ms Murphy in her new role. It says new parking meters and signage has been ordered for the car parks where we're bringing in paid parking where there previously wasn't. I'm just wondering, do we have a date for when paid parking is coming into Harbour Road and Howth? We had a good discussion at the last Howth Malahide council meeting, and there's a number of residents of Harbour Road who are wondering when they can apply for the residence permit. So if we could be given advance notice of when the paid parking is coming in, rather than the meters appearing one morning and causing a panic. So thank you.
Okay, Councillor Darren Jack Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the Chief Executive for the report. Just a couple of things. I'd just like to say thanks for the invitation to the St Patrick's Day Parade in Swords. It was a great event, thoroughly enjoyed it. The other thing I have a question to is probably directed to Ms Murphy in operations. I just noticed on the playground, a lot of work's gone on Dublin 15 for playground, like doing it up and fixing them all and so on. A lot of people have been on to me in Swords in regards to playgrounds to be upgraded, and in fairness, a lot of them are quite dated. Maybe one or two aren't, but there is quite a lot that are dated, and I'm just looking for some sort of feedback on what the plan would be for them to be updated. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Luke Corkery.
Thanks, Mayor. I note and I welcome the plans for 12 social homes on the Dublin Road in Swords. I presume these are new units to replace the existing vacant houses there. Are all of these houses to be demolished, and can you confirm what type of development that will be? Thanks.
Councillor Grania Maguire.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and again thanks to the Chief Executives for the report. It just goes to show the great work that's been done in the Council on a continuous basis. Just a couple of items. We all say in each community how great our community groups and our volunteers and our sporting organisations and our clubs. We had an absolutely fantastic event in Balbriggan on Saturday, Believe Balbriggan, supported by the Fingal Community Office, and it was absolutely outstanding to see over 70 organisations all in the one room sharing what they do with the community. And just finally, again for Ms Murphy, the lights at the junction of Flemington. We keep continuously getting an email in relation to the pedestrian lights. They're going to be turned on. It's in progress, it's in progress. This is a really exceptionally busy junction with an awful lot of kids using the O'Dwyer's new facility, and I do not want to be sitting in a year's time with the lights still not on. That we need to actually put that in as a matter of urgency. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, and Councillor Patrick Quinlan.
Thank you very much, Chair. I was just reading down through the report there, as you normally do. But I seen something in relation to electricity supply on traveller-specific accommodation. Obviously, messing with electricity supply is very dangerous. Definitely wouldn't encourage it. But what I would ask is that when it comes to approved housing bodies and stuff like that, does the council have any say or authority on what electricity supplier they're initially set up with? Because I'm aware that a lot of these approved housing bodies are putting people on pay-as-you-go debt meters, and like these run at a premium just for the privilege of being broke. So that's that question. And then obviously it would be me if I wasn't talking about population and demographic change. It just says here, Amory Fairley, the cover note essentially cognizant that the projection that the population of Swords is set to double over the next 20 years. Just wondering, where have you seen that report? And in that report that you've seen, is it talking about that the main driver of that being organic domestic population growth, or is it due to immigration into the country?
Okay, so I think that's all the speakers I have. I've just one small question. That's for Sinead, and she may or may not have the answer. Anyway, we're getting paid parking in Red Island in one of the smaller car parks, and I have a concern that there is no meter near it, and the nearest meter is Joe May's pub. So my question is, how many use, I don't know if you know this, Sinead, at this present time, what percentage of people who park use the app versus cash? And kind of visitors, yeah, sure, they can use the phone, but maybe some of them are using cash. So if someone arrives at a destination from outside town, are they going, from a different council, are they going to seek to use cash? So we've no, what do you call it, machine for paying for your parking near the playground or near Red Island. The nearest one is Joe Mays, as far as I can make out looking at it. Anyway, that's just my questions. The only question I have, a lot of questions there, so I'll go to the Chief Executive first and see how we go on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor and members, and thanks for all your contributions. I suppose just to deal with Councillor Hannafy first, that is a very upsetting email. I would also say it's not going to be possible for us to answer the queries in relation to it till we see and discuss the individual case. So I'd ask you to bring the details of the individual case to us and we'll explore it. It would be highly unusual for us to have a family in homeless accommodation for that length of time. And it is something that we monitor very closely, the length of time in homeless accommodation. We aim to find solutions for people's homelessness as quickly as possible and present options to those that are in homeless accommodation. That may not always be the provision of a social house. It may be housing assistance payment and other mechanisms for exiting homelessness. But there's, in terms of a family stating that they've been in homeless accommodation for 3 years, I really want to explore that because I'd have every sympathy for the case that you've outlined. But just to say that is a key metric for us, and we aim to move everybody on as quickly as possible. And the team in our homeless services are dedicated to achieving that, as well as some of the support workers that work providing specialist services for families in need in particular. So I'd ask that you bring the precise details to us, first of all, and we'll certainly explore it. But it wouldn't be a usual circumstance, and we'll certainly aim to I suppose, identify the particular factors in that case. In terms of the homeless services we offer, I just want to congratulate the housing team for their direct, dedicated work with individual people and families experiencing homelessness. And it is a factor of our housing supply as well. And thanks to the members for approving the social housing scheme that we brought to you for approval earlier. On the issue of St Patrick's Day, thanks for your comments. Thanks to the events team for operating such successful events. I'm delighted to see areas such as Donabate with a huge volunteer effort having their first parade this year. It certainly seemed to be a really joyous occasion. And really good for an area that's experiencing population growth to have those community events. And I know our events team will do everything possible to assist new areas in delivering new events each year. I think they get bigger and better, so to the events manager and to John, just to thank them for their efforts. On St Patrick's Day and the team that travelled to New York, I suppose it's an event that many councillors avail of each year to go to international parades and to, I suppose, try to put their area on the map. We were very pleased that we had the opportunity to attend this year. We have provided information in the Chief Executive's report and happy to provide more if necessary. But in terms of meeting the IDA, Enterprise Ireland, Tourism Ireland, the perspective of meeting the staff on the ground in a major international city is to make sure they distinguish Fingal from Dublin, the Dublin region from the Eastern region, and to show the unique characteristics we have. It was really of great benefit to the county that we spoke to the IDA, for example, about the economic lands that we own, and a tremendous presentation was given by the team to the IDA, and they are absolutely receptive to our message and to understand that that level of service land is available for activation by international companies in Fingal. So I think the Mayor might...
I'd like to say a few words on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Just right now. Yeah. So, yeah, we had a very successful trip to New York, councillors there and officials. We had great meeting. We met Minister Peter Burke, Minister for Enterprise and Tourism. We met the list of organisations the Chief Executive just outlined there. Very important meeting with the IDA. We made a really strong presentation. You'd be surprised to hear about the possibilities of Balbriggan. The relevant IDA executive out there who deals with all the large foreign direct investment companies has agreed to visit Balbriggan. He's over and back at Dublin Airport, so he's going to make a trip to Balbriggan, Councillor Murphy. and I made sure to invite him. I had difficulty with Councillor Murphy. We had to sort of stop him being arrested on the St. Patrick's Day parade while he was roaming around with the Explore Fingal sign, and he got a warning not to be using it, but he got a good run out of it. We got great international publicity. We were on TV, CNBC and whatever else, I can't remember, but we got it, and we got huge publicity out of that, and we were seen there. South Dublin County Council were marching with us for Dublin City. The integrated action plan for Dublin was left with the IDA, and that also, the other plan for the county, you know, for Dublin 15, Dublin 15 wasn't left out, our Swords. It's all in our plans there, and they have a document now that they can give to people who they talk to out in New York. I was tripping over mayors out there. I was wondering why we weren't out there already. I met at least 14 mayors, at least. It's a great occasion to sell Fingal, and we need to do it more. I was at Bowling Green, which is a very famous location beside Wall Street, where I had the honour, along with my wonderful colleague, Councillor Kieran Dennison, of raising the Irish flag there. And that's a great honour to be asked to do that, and I'm very proud to have done it at very short notice. They didn't tell me. And there was a lot of influential people at that event, including a Supreme Court judge who I bumped into, standing around there, of Irish descent from Mayo. A lot of connections were made. We are really, really, and I know everyone knows the Irish are welcome out there, but I couldn't get over how welcome and how positive it was, and we need to milk that more by being out there more and having them over here more. And we had a representative from Seattle here at the last area meeting that we had here. So all in all, it's a very good event. We need to up the game for Dublin because all the other counties do better, frankly, and so we will do that, and there are plans to do that. We met the Dublin organisation. We were in Queens as well. We met another organisation there, and that was very interesting. So all in all, it was a great event, and we need to do it more. We need to sell Fingal. Fingal needs to stand up for Fingal. Otherwise, we're buried in the messaging. So it's a great thing to do, and we need to explore more like that and get more jobs into here and more tourism into here. So I thought it was a great event anyway, but I'm biased. Thank you. Back to the Chief Executive.
Thanks, Mayor. There's some questions about individual schemes, and I'm going to ask the directors to come in on those shortly. On the PSLC, the Portmarnock Social, Community and Leisure Club, just to explain to other members, that's a club that has operated a swimming pool for about 30 years in Portmarnock, as well as a community centre and some outdoor facilities in terms of sports pitches as well. It was of concern, I suppose, to us that when we heard that they've had difficulty with their swimming pool roof, to the extent that the swimming pool has had to close. And bearing in mind the level of conversation we've had in the Chamber about swimming pools, we wanted to offer our services in terms of support to, I suppose, come up with a plan to rectify the situation. As I understand it, while the swimming pool is closed, a lot of people are losing access to swimming lessons, and there is a cost to the centre as well because the swimming pool is closed. I met with representatives with some of the team on Friday to discuss the difficulties they're having. We recommended to them that they proceed to prepare a plan for the replacement of the roof, which is necessary. That will come at a considerable cost, and funding for doing of the works will have to be identified, but we will assist the group in identifying a plan and arranging a financial model to ensure that the works are done as quickly as possible. It wouldn't be an unusual circumstance. There are a number of community centres in the county that are run by local committees, and we do what we can to support them when they ask for support. So that work is underway. I'm hopeful that they'll come back to us quite quickly with a plan to deal with the problems that they've encountered. But a bit of work to do, and obviously it would be in everybody's interest if the work was complete and the pool was reopened as quickly as possible. In relation to Swords Library, we are in a leased building up at on the Rathbeal Road presently. That lease will end, I think it's at the end of this year, which means we have to relocate anyway. It's to our benefit that the new library will be ready in or around the same time, so we will be relocating to the new library as soon as it's complete and ready for occupation. I'm not quite sure, Councillor Smith, on the question about planning enforcement and containers. I mean, containers, I presume, subject to planning, can be used for purposes, but the provisions of the Planning Acts would apply, and they'd have to understand whether it's exempted development that is proposed or not, and if not, then to seek planning permission for whatever use is proposed. On the issue of World Autism Awareness Day, we would like to support that. I'll have to take your advice on the blue issue, but yeah, that's something that we can look at, and obviously our community department did a lot of work in the last number of weeks in relation to supporting the Autism Awareness Week. I might ask Ms Egan to come in on the access strategy. The matter of detail about Drogheda Street and St Paul's Crescent, we'll come back to you, Councillor Quinn. On the Housing Expo in Cannes, I suppose, similar to, being outward looking as a council and understanding where solutions might be found. I was requested to attend the expo by the Department of Housing and to participate on a panel about housing delivery. The benefit of that was that we were presenting the likes of Dunsink to a broad audience, including developers and financiers. We are particularly interested in finding a sustainable model for cost rental housing provision. Councillors will remember that in the last 18 months, the council borrowed 26 million, I think it was, for the provision of cost rental housing. So we're interested in exploring all options for the provision. In terms of follow-on, one investor has attended the council since that expo, so visited Fingal County Council here in Swords to talk about potential opportunities for collaboration in the future. And again, it is purely in the cost rental space, and we would like to provide more of that type of accommodation in the county because there's such a big demand for it. Kellystown Cemetery, I believe that contract will end in May, and we should be in a position to open it soon thereafter, but I'll come back to you with precise dates, Councillor Kitt. Barnhill Link Road, I might ask Matthew to come in. I certainly haven't heard any negative reports about it, and a lot of interest in that new access. Again, some of the roads queries, I might ask Matthew and David to come in. On the active travel and the slow pace and the emergency provisions, I suppose one thing we found with active travel is that the consultation does take quite a considerable period. And there's those that support active travel and those that do not, but in terms of moving through that process, it certainly does take time, and we do need to bring the communities with us. But we have a substantial scheme in the capital programme, so I'm not aware of any lack of ambition. There's great work done there by our teams, and we'll move to roll out as quickly as possible. On Tree Week, I think it's a figure of 60,000 trees we plant as a council every year, Councillor Newman. So we have a tree strategy officer who does tremendous work and in fact is chair of the Tree Council. So I think we're probably unique as a council in having that position, and also just in terms of our ongoing work in our regional parks and all our other open spaces, 60,000 trees. But then in addition to that, where we implement projects, we always compensate and overcompensate for any loss of trees. Councillor McCamley, I'll take your comment about Bertie Donnelly Away, if I have that name correct, and see if that's been looked at before. Some further queries on the Royal Canal Greenway I'll ask Matthew to take. On the playgrounds in Dublin 15, certainly there's some work in Dublin 15 and in other areas on playgrounds. Our main work in Swords is with the Ward River Regional Park, which will look at play provision as well. We opened a recent playground, well, recently enough in the last year, up in Old Town in that new open space that was delivered as part of the development. So we keep all playgrounds under review, and we will bring details both in our capital programme and through upgrade works in our revenue budget as they arise. On the 12 social homes on Dublin Road, we'll be bringing to you the plan for that in due course. And on the AHBs, Councillor Quinlan, pay as you go, that's something I'll follow up. I wasn't aware of that. On the population of Swords, that's projected based on the level of zoned land we have in Swords. The land was zoned because of the plan for Metrolink. So when we talk about a population increase, it's because our county development plan provides for it. People will know Swords has always been a good location for starter homes and a desirable place to live. So it's based on all of those factors rather than any analysis of migration or otherwise. And again, on the parking app, Sinead may come in on that. So I hope the team have caught what they need to answer. I might ask Dave to come in first.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I know the Chief Exec has mentioned about the cycle schemes, but the COVID measures that we came down from the NTA circular at the time for us to roll those schemes out. The active travel plan between Matthew and myself and the Safe Route Schools, there's 47 projects across the county. So that's the challenge we have with an allocation of 22 million. And everybody wants the active travel schemes brought in, but they are challenging, as the Chief Exec said, and we have to go through the non-statutory consultation process. Just to know, the Warriors Active Travel Scheme, the infrastructure is installed. The contractor hopefully will have the lights on in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So once we have that, we'll come back to you and let you know straight away. And just one thing for the Mayor, I know we talked about the pay and display the scheme for Red Island. That will be done as part of the scheme for the Red Island scheme. So when we move to do the works there, we'll install a pay and display scheme, but obviously in conjunction with talks with our operations department.
Thanks, Dave. Just in relation to the Broad Meadow Greenway, we've had a lot of engagement with Iarnród Éireann in the last few months. They will be procuring the contractor to carry out those works. So we're happy to provide a detailed update to the councillors. We might do that through one of our regular briefing sessions. We're hoping to meet the Swords councillors next Thursday evening to give an overview of all the projects that are ongoing in infrastructure and transport. So look, I'll try and get that invite out in the next couple of days. Portrand Roads, letters have issued. We're in a standstill period at the minute. So that contract should be awarded in the coming days. We'll keep the councillors updated on the exact date when those works will commence. It will be in May, but until the contractor is actually appointed, we don't have a date just yet. The Barnhill Link Road, no, we haven't received any complaints. It appears to be operating very well. It's well used, but we will continue to monitor the road and its junctions. Hartstown Park, we'll be moving to procure a contractor in the coming weeks. Swords Distributor Roads, certainly unaware of any delays. We have our consultant Aegis working on phase 2 of that project, 2 options. That appears to be going to schedule. The Royal Canal, we're currently reviewing the individual chapters of the environmental impact report. So there's been a slight delay around just access to some of the specialist consultants required. Unfortunately, it's causing a slight delay. But again, look, we're doing everything we can. The timeline for submitting the application has probably moved to September. And we haven't received a letter of consent. But again, we had very positive engagement with Waterways Ireland at the end of last year. So we don't believe there'll be any issue around that letter of consent from them. And finally, just then on Granard Bridge, again, a lot of work is going on in the background, and we're working to planning application being submitted early 2027.
In relation to two vacant homes, we can take the details of those 2 specific units and follow that up. We had a detailed presentation on voids at the Housing SPC recently and went through the range of different factors and different parties that are involved in renovating and reletting a house, both within our own control and factors outside of our control as well. So it's a slightly more complex process than you might imagine, but happy to take the 2 details away. And what we'll probably find is there's a specific reason why they haven't been allocated. as of yet. We had a record number of allocations last year, almost 1,000 allocations, which is the most ever, based on a record deliveries of social housing units coming into stock over the last few years. And one of the downsides of that is that our figures for voids can be is counted on the 31st in NOAC, which is the National Oversight and Audit Committee, counts them on the 31st of December, which is unfortunate for us because we would get our highest level of delivery coming in to stock in Q4 and in particular in November and December. And that is very difficult for us in terms of allocating large quantities of especially apartment blocks, very difficult for us to allocate them so quickly in the week or 2 weeks before Christmas. So, so that figure can be a little bit, I think, unfair to Fingal County Council based on the large number of social homes coming into stock.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on the access strategy, it's currently being finalised and we hope to have it with you fairly shortly.
Just a few questions there. Councillor Quinn, yeah, I think the parking wardens have been notified about that in Balbriggan, but I will just check up on that tomorrow. With regard to Kellystown Cemetery, Councillor Kitt, the construction contract is due to complete in Q3, Q3 of this year. And Councillor Haughey, date for the paid parking in Harbour Road. I understand that this is going on public display this coming Wednesday. And then Councillor Kelly, you mentioned about the playgrounds and the dating of some of the playgrounds. I understand now that our inspectors are doing an assessment for all the playgrounds 4 times a year. They're using a new app which is proving to be quite successful, and a number of neighbouring local authorities are looking to replicate that at the moment. So we've quite a database of information with regard to the status of the playgrounds. And Councillor Maguire, that was Flemington for the active travel team. And Mayor, with regard to the percentage of cash versus card, I don't have that now, but we can check it and circulate that to you tomorrow. And we will just check up on the location of those meters with regard to the issue you raised about proximity to the parking. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor James Humphreys.
Just perhaps the executive could come back at a later date by email, but when the Swords Western Distributed Road first phase was announced, we're expecting this route selection to be Q1 of 2027, and in this Chief Executive's report, it's Q2 of 2027. So just why the discrepancy from when it was announced and to what is in the Chief Executive's report today.
Okay, so does somebody need to come back on that, or is that, no? We okay?
We can provide the councillor with an update next Thursday.
Okay, great. All right, so that's all the speakers I have. So it's the Chief Executive's report noted. No, thank you. So we go on. Mayor's business. There's no mayor's business. Conference report. I've only one item here. It's number 23A, AILG Maynooth University Micro-Credential in Spatial Planning. Myself and Kieran Dennison did this one, and I recommend it to any councillors out there if you're interested. It was very interesting and informative and informal but formal, and it's worth doing if you have an interest. And we go on to correspondence number 24A, letter, these are for notings. So correspondence A, B, C, D and E. Noted? Is that okay? Noted. And then we go on to ministerial correspondence 25A and B. Noted? Noted, not agreed? Okay. And then we're going to motions. So at this point, I'm proposing that we take number 31, Councillor Quinn's motion, because we have an event after this, civic reception after this. So I'm proposing to take Councillor Quinn's motion now to vary the agenda. So Councillor Malachy Quinn proposed. Proposed Malachy, and seconded by Councillor Breen McDonough. Okay. Yes. Councillor Kieran.
Yeah, I'm suggesting, Mayor, that the motion is out of order
based on similar or rescinding Standing Order 80, where it says, when a motion or resolution has been disposed of, it shall not be for any councillor to propose similar or rescinding motion within a period of 6 months without the consent of not less than 3/4 of the council. So I propose that we should take that vote before we take the motion.
Okay, I'll have to seek opinion on that. So I'm going to go to corporate services and see what, yes, Councillor Walsh.
Mayor, my understanding was that once a motion is on the agenda and the Mayor hasn't ruled it out of order, the motion is in order.
Okay, and if, before I go to corporate services, Councillor David Healy.
Cormac Vera, the discussion that we had in November was about the budget, and the budget did not include increasing the rents. The budget was based upon the money coming in from an increase in the rents, but it was made very clear, and we all accept, that the setting of the rents is an executive function and not a councillor's function. So we weren't in a position to resolve the motion on this matter because it's not our function. We're in a position to advise the executive, and we didn't do that in November. There's nothing stopping us from discussing this now. Thank you.
Okay, and I have 3 more speakers here on this point of order, but I do note that one of the replies says that it is an executive function. I'm not sure about the, I remember we had a long discussion about increasing rent and how much and all the rest. Anyway, Malachy, are you coming in a point of order? No later.
Okay.
So it's Councillor Tormey now.
Yeah, it just goes back to what I raised earlier in terms of here we have a proposal, but we don't have any figures. So it's asking to pause the rent increases, and it doesn't take into account the cost that would be, and then any adjustments that would need to be made within the budget for that.
Okay, so now, I have 2 more. This on the point of order stuff. Brian McDonough, yes?
Just on the point of order, I think it'd be, a way over liberal interpretation. We never discuss, there are plenty of things we discuss more than within 6 months when there's a variation in information or there. What we previously had was a vote to a procedural motion to adjourn during the budget. It was a completely different motion from this on a similar topic. So I think, in my opinion, it'd be it's not as if it's exactly the same or even the same effect or function. So I think it's entirely in order in my view. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Joe Newman.
Yeah, Mayor, just a question on it. It's for clarification. I presume if we go for a review, it can either be reviewed up and down. Would that be the case? And also,
there is no call for a review, just to clarify.
Well, it's a review, sorry, yeah.
No.
Pardon?
There's no call for a review, it's a call to postpone the increase. Yeah, so, right, oh, sorry, go ahead, Joe. Councillor Newman. There's no word of review. That was a previous emergency motion. It's not before us. What's before us is up on screen. So go back to Joe. Joe, do you want to continue what you're saying there or whatever? Joe Newman, you okay?
No, I think I got clarification there, but it is an executive function to come forward with suggestion of rent increases or decreases. And I was one that supported the rent increase at that time, and I still support it. Thanks. If there's other issues like, costs, accruing to energy costs and food things, there's different mechanisms for dealing with that. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Tony Murphy.
Just a point of clarification, Mayor. Given the debate we're having with regard to whether or not it's in order or out of order, I just want to understand if we're going to spend the next 10, 15, 20 minutes debating a motion, I'd like to ask the executive, do we have any impact? Is it going to change anything? And is it worthwhile taking the motion in that context? Thank you.
Okay, so if the motion is approved or not approved, what's the effect? And then we have to go to we need to get an opinion over here, but anyway, Paul Mulville.
Well, thanks, Chair. Just briefly, I think I mentioned at the last meeting that from the minutes of previous council meetings, there have been motions from councillors around the rent scheme. And even though it was an executive function, the council executive had taken into account motions from councillors when the previous scheme was made a number of years ago. Thanks.
Right, okay. So, right, I'm going over to corporate services now. The original query was put by Councillor Gearan. So, can you advise me and advise the room what's the position on that? And sure, we'll see what we'll do. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. I suppose the first thing is that the motion is on the agenda, so therefore it's considered to be in order. The motion is asking to pause the rent increase, and that is an executive function, and I suppose really, I don't know which councillor asked what impact the
Murphy.
passing of the motion would be, but it's an executive function, so therefore it's an executive function, it won't have any impact.
Right. So, look at, yes?
A point of order around I don't understand how it's in order when it's seeking to alter the budget and it doesn't discuss in specifics, like numbers around that. Thank you.
Okay, right, okay. Right, okay. Who's that? Patrick Quinlan.
Thanks very much, Chair. I'm just looking for a point of clarification here on what corporate services have said with this being an executive function. Does that effectively mean that if the motion is passed, that's still up to the executive on whether or not they implement it?
Yes, that
So
appears.
in effect, the elected members of the council are subordinate to the council in this regard.
Well, not really. It can have persuasive effect. They could take cognizance. They could take cognizance of the motion, or they could ignore it. But that's politics and whatever, and that's the way it is. Right, where are we at? Okay, I've received advice. It's on the agenda. I have to make a ruling on this, and I'm making a ruling. I want to take this motion. I want to take it now. That's it. It's in order. If I saw this agenda before the relevant time for publication, I most likely would have raised queries about whether it's legitimate or not, or in order or not, because there are no references to the money and where it will come from. If we delay the increase in rents and we lose X thousands, whatever it is, where's that going to come out of, and all that sort of thing. So I would have raised that query, and maybe the motion might have been edited if the councillor was given a chance and all that. But that's all yesterday in hearsay. We're here now. I'm ruling that we take the motion and let's proceed to debate it and get it done. So, has the motion been, I've ruled on this motion. We are taking this motion. Have you proposed it, Councillor Quinn? Yes. And
yes.
Who seconded it? Councillor Breen Murphy. So, Councillor Quinn, do you want to speak to it?
Thank you very much. I just want to thank every councillor who's made a contribution prior to the speaking on this motion, so thank you very much for that. The increase in rents for tenants at this time will only add to the crippling costs to families already struggling with energy, poverty, cost of living crisis and increased transport costs. As of yesterday, April 12th, home heating oil kerosene in Ireland costs approximately €870 to €880 for 500 litres, roughly 1,720 to 1,740 for 1,000 litres in the Dublin area. I spoke to one of our council tenants yesterday who has been turning on the heating for an hour every day in the last 7 days because she simply has a choice to make. It's eat or heat. Let's just think about that as we debate this motion. We do not have the figures for Fingal, but according to the latest census, there are more than 726,000 people aged over 65 years in Ireland, and 190,000 of them live alone. Looking at poverty by our age group, the most recent CSO data shows that 13.3% of those aged above 65 years, more than 106,000 older people live in relative income poverty. This is an increase of 64% compared to 2023. The CSO data also shows that without the temporary costs of living measures in 2024, the poverty rate among older people would have been 21.1%. Now there is a recognition of how bad the crisis is. If the present government hadn't intervened, we would have been at 21.1%. They didn't go far enough. That's my opinion. As of these temporary measures wind down, the true picture of poverty among older people has revealed itself according to Alone, and this is a notable concern. The impact of inflation is greatest for those households in the bottom 4 deciles of income distribution. These households spend a greater proportion of their income compared to better off households and are more exposed to price increases. They are also very exposed to the nature of the current cost of living crisis, as they also spend a greater proportion of their income on food and energy. As inflation persists, policies will need to be more impactful, targeted towards these households and further assist with the growing living cost challenges they face. Rising inflation has resulted in the cost of living pressures remaining a challenge for those on the lowest incomes. The number at risk of poverty has increased in the last 12 months prior to the recent aggression by the USA and Israel. The deprivation rate has risen, reflecting the damaging impact of cost of living pressures, as well as the vulnerability of our taxation model, which relies heavily on a few companies. Poverty Focus 2025's key findings are a keen reminder of how the cost of living is affecting people. More than 1 in 10 people live in income poverty in this state, actually 12.6% of the population. Without cost of living supports, we're at risk of poverty. I could go on and on. We have an opportunity in this council to be able to make a positive step towards our council tenants by giving them a pause in their council increases. We've seen yesterday's proposals by the government. My opinion, they don't go far enough, but we here in the council can make an impact on that, and we can accommodate and help our council tenants who badly need our help. Thank you very much.
Councillor David Healy.
Cormac Vera, and I very much welcome the motion and the chance to have this discussion. But what I would like to propose to the Chief Executive is an alternative approach, and that is that we would look at our differential rent scheme and that we would adjust it based on the building energy ratings of the properties that we are renting out. Because we're now in a situation, having retrofitted some of our houses, where some of our tenants have no difficulty keeping their houses warm because we have provided them with well-insulated buildings, and it's not a challenge to heat them. And we have other tenants who are in older properties who are, as Councillor Quinn says, finding it impossible to heat the houses that they live in or the apartments that they live in. And that says to me that we should be differentiating our rents on the basis of the buildings. Unfortunately, there is a building energy rating scheme run by SAI, which is rating our properties, and I don't know if we've put all of them through it or not, but we should be putting them through it. And as we put them through it, I think with the current increase in heating costs, which is such a challenge for people, I think we should be incorporating that into the differential rent scheme. Cormac.
Councillor Angela Donnelly.
Thank you. I'd like to support the motion. Households are facing a cost of living crisis, and we need to do all we can to reduce that burden, as record numbers of households are already struggling to pay their energy bills, with hundreds of thousands in arrears and many more on the brink. The number of people at risk of poverty has also increased. We spoke earlier about the financial impacts the significant increase in energy prices may have on our expenditure. That doesn't come close to the short-term reality that many council tenants are facing. I'd like to speak about our tenants with disabilities. They have the additional cost of charging equipment such as hoists and electric wheelchairs, and honestly the term heat or eat is a reality to many of them. Fuel, food and heating bills continue to spiral out of control. The price of heating homes is particularly hitting households in uninsulated, drafty council homes. We need to give these families a break. A pause in the rent increase would go a long way to helping families we are all here to represent. This is an executive function, and I would ask the executive to seriously consider this request. We discussed authorising additional overspends today of 2 million without blinking. Surely we can afford to pause the rents for a month or two. Thank you.
Councillor John Burchell.
Yeah, support the motion, of course. I don't think we should have put up the rents. We're entering a very volatile time here. business as usual isn't going to cut it. The events since the start of the year alone, the explosions, the protests that exploded over the last week, this is going to become the norm as greater and greater numbers of people are forced into poverty. If the government won't, what we call a cost of living crisis is in many cases a cost of profiteering crisis. Our government lets the market run riot on people, even amplifying it in some cases. And if you're not going to control commercial entities and allow them to profit gouge people, you're going to get a cost of living crisis. The minimum the state should be doing is acting in a counter-cyclical fashion. This is accepted economic policy. So if there's a cost of living crisis, the state should not be adding to it. And that includes councils, and our council here is, as well as the rent increases, you know, they increased parking charges recently, we increased the charges in the recycling centre. I mean, we should not be adding to this. Our job should be to try and ease the burden on people as they face, you know, increasing challenges. And business as usual isn't going to cut it. We've taken a business as usual approach to housing, and the end result is that tragic case that Councillor Hannafy read out the letter from the young girl there. So really, we need to be much more flexible. We need to intervene here and not just be waiting for things to happen, because we're entering a very different world and business as usual won't cut it.
Councillor Breen McDonough.
Yeah, I wanted to support the motion, and I think the emphasis on older people and people who are on lower fixed incomes is really important. We haven't seen the final draft or a draft of what the scheme is going to be, but I think it's important to kind of note that there are already built-in increases when social welfare goes up, people's rent goes up, and people were expecting that already. But I have deep concerns that people who are on very low pensions are going to be paying the same percentage or the same percentage increase as people who are on much higher incomes. Percentage there isn't equity. It's not fairness. In relation to whether this debate is worth having at all, given that it's an executive function, I mean, the executive obviously are in a position where if where they listen to councillors, and that's something that I think that we should acknowledge. They don't listen to every council on everything, but if we were in a circumstances here where everybody said, look, where all councillors were advising them that the circumstances have changed since the budget, and that actually we are in a position where we all agree that perhaps now is not the time to implement something, whether we disagree or agree whether it's a long-term strategy. If every councillor voted for this, I think in general it's one of those things that the executive would certainly have to consider in relation to any of the decisions that they make going forward. In a practical sense, I think it's always been something that, or not always, but it's a thing that I've been thinking about a lot in relation to the differential rent scheme that Councillor Healy suggested, which was really good. And one of the things I've looked at in the pilot project that ran in Stranmill, the estate where I'm in, was that solar didn't become a part of it. I've installed solar. It's made a huge difference in relation to the bill in terms of electricity. The return on it is incredible in terms of the economic return, and we should be in a position, not just in terms of Fingal, but nationally, to find a way to put solar on every council house in the country, and on the benefit of that to be shared in such a way that the council recoups its investment, but also that the residents get some of the benefit of having solar on their roof as an electricity generator. So there are means and ways, I think, that we could have a differential rent scheme that really made a difference. I think this council in general, the strategy is to go the right way, but I think there are different ways that we could have done the budget. But in relation, that fight is lost. But I really think it would be great if we could consider, given the change in government policy in relation to carbon taxes, that we do something similar here and reconsider the increases. Thank you.
Councillor Gerard Sheehan.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to support the motion. It's something that we've seen over the last few weeks, this absolute spike in the cost of fuel. It really is hitting everybody, and it's the straw that's breaking the camel's back, and it's across the country. People are really, really feeling it. And I think that if we could do it, it would be just some sort of immediate relief to try to prevent any additional financial burden which are coming in the middle of a cost of or the current energy crisis and the volatility, and give a bit of breathing room for maybe the government. I know that they have introduced some measures, but those measures, in my view, are mitigating what's happening, and they're not cures. But it would give some breathing space, and I'd hope that we could look at some sort of pause.
Okay, Councillor Patrick Quinlan.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm reluctantly happy to support the motion. The reason why I'm reluctant is because it's just a short-term measure, and if I'm reading the motion correctly, it's in a direct lockstep with the government at the moment, and the relief that they're offering to people, which is only temporary. And I would like to see permanent reductions, but the only way that's actually going to happen is on a national level, completely outside the Fingal's remit. But absolutely everything that relies on oil, like rubber, everything that relies on oil to be produced is going to see the cost of it being increased. And people heating their homes, especially here in Fingal, because I want to just stay local with it. I could go off and go on a national level if I want to talk about Ballyroe oil field, 200 million barrels of oil that the government's just sitting there looking at. Leo Varadkar 2019 decided to make offshore oil exploration illegal. But definitely, if we can offer any relief, even if it is only temporary, it should be offered to council tenants. But I'd strongly urge the executive, no one could have predicted that in February, Israel / America would essentially go to war with Iran. But we should definitely be looking at ways that we can long-term, not temporarily, but long-term actually reduce people's costs in relation to heating their homes, paying the rent and stuff like that. So I'm happy to support this motion just to give the Irish people a bit of relief, because being on the ground with the protesters over the last week and supporting the protesters, engaging with them, these are people that are on half decent money, but they're being absolutely stretched to the limit. No, they might not be social housing tenants, but if you have people who are, effectively working 60 hours a week, struggling, social tenants are obviously struggling, and we need to support them. We need to support the most vulnerable in our society.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor John Walsh.
Yeah, support the motion, Mayor. I have serious concerns that going ahead with the housing rent increases at this point would cause very real hardship at a time of spiralling cost of living increases. And obviously, it is an executive function, and a decision was made on the budget by a small majority, and that decision was made in a particular time frame. I didn't agree with it, but I think in looking at this again, the executive can reflect on the fact that there's been a very dramatic change in circumstances since last December. Starting with Trump's act of lunacy in attacking Iran, all the impacts that have come from that, the spikes in the cost of living, fuel increases, the events of the last couple of weeks, and the decision just yesterday by the government following the emergency cabinet meeting to offer various types of relief to the people and the groups who are most involved in the protests. That's a significant change in government policy. It's a significant change relating to excise duty. It relates to a delay in the increase in carbon tax to the budget. And it's appropriate for the Council to look at its position again in the light of those changes in government policy. And I think there is an opportunity to do that because the draft scheme hasn't come forward to us. It hasn't yet been approved. While I have absolutely no difficulty, and I think there was obviously huge demand for the relief that was given on fuel, it's not just a problem of fuel prices. There's a problem of, the cost of living is about affordability, it's about rents, it's about food prices. And no relief is being given to workers, no relief has been given to social housing tenants. I think that's fundamentally wrong and it's fundamentally unjust. And that's why I support the current motion. It's a short-term measure, and that's all we can do at the moment, given the volatility and the uncertainty in the world today. But as a short-term measure, I'm certainly happy to support it.
Okay, Councillor Ellen Troy.
I'd like to support the motion. Circumstances have changed out of all recognition, as everybody said. But even before any war in Iran, there was 320,000 households in arrears with their utility bills. That's shocking. That's actually almost, if there's 3 to a home, that's almost 1 million people living in misery. Imagine going shopping for your family and you haven't paid your utility bills. It must be misery. And so those people, those particular people and the disabled as well, those who are who heat in a home is an essential. They can't move around to keep themselves warm. They're just going to face hell. So I think we need to do this. Thank you.
Councillor Jimmy Gearan.
Yeah, I won't be supporting the motion, and I fully respect the people here who say they will. I honestly believe that we all know as well it's a executive function. But when we voted in the budget and we discussed the rents, we were able to point out that somebody living on one side of the road who was in Fingal was paying substantially less than somebody living on this other side of the road, which was based in Dublin City. So our tenants are already being well looked after and being served well. We are not responsible for what happened in Iran, and we're not responsible for what could have been a terrible situation with the blockades last week. But what we are responsible for is to provide the retrofitting and the work and the improvements and the budget and delivering on the budget that we voted on. And for that reason, I think it's important that we go ahead. We have written, I presume, at this stage, or we would have been at fault, to our tenants to tell them of the changes. We have notified people of what their new rents will be. And now we have to, unfortunately, go and collect these. I understand it's very difficult, not only for tenants in Fingal houses, it's very difficult for people who are not in a council home. It's very difficult for people that we all represent who are paying a mortgage. It's very difficult for people who have children going to school. They all have a difficulty. But we have a responsibility as a local authority to provide well for our tenants in homes. And that means retrofitting, it means fixing boilers, it means doing windows. And we have to fund that. And the way we fund it is by implementing a budget which we passed by a small majority, but that's what's called democracy. We are looking at a motion and we're saying, let's take X million out. We haven't identified where, because what we are saying is, let's not take the rent that increases that were due for a number of months. At what expense? Do we say that people who are struggling and who want to go and avail of our libraries, that we should cut back on libraries? Do we suggest we cut back on services? We can't do that. I understand why people are doing it. It's politically good. It'll be a nice statement. It'll be a nice Facebook post. But more than that, we need to be responsible. Thank you.
It has to be a point of
Probably
order.
very strange that I'm jumping in as a point of order here, but I believe the spirit of the motion is to actually give relief and not just get internet traffic or followers. I think it's actually to provide relief
right,
to council tenants
Right.
as opposed to just drive internet traffic.
All right, okay,
I'd like that statement withdrawn.
Well, I doubt if that's going to happen. But anyway, and that sort of statement has been made many times in this chamber. Back to Councillor Gearan.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm surprised, in fact, that Councillor Quinlan's still here and not outside posting. But anyway, I just make the point that I do think there is an onus on us as councillors to stand by the budget that we voted in. If people want to address this in the next budget, that's the time to do it. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Owen O'Brien.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, look, there's no question whatsoever that with all that's going on globally, there's massive uncertainty. Every household, or certainly the majority of households, whether they're private renters, whether they're homeowners paying a mortgage, or whether they're council tenants, are feeling the impact of, the increases in cost of living, whether that be fuel, whether that be the shopping basket, and so forth. Everything has gotten more expensive, and those of us who are at work increasingly feel I suppose the spending power of our euro going down. So like that's affecting pretty much every sector of the economy, every part of society. I suppose what hasn't been mentioned until Councillor Gearan's intervention there is actually what this would cost and where that money would come from. Okay, so I certainly am not sitting here trying to cast aspersions on anybody who's made a comment in this debate, but the fact of the matter is, and the Chief Executive may well listen to the call if this motion is passed, but the bottom line there would be that we would need to reduce our estate management budget. The Chief Executive might outline by how many million, I can't remember off the top of my head from the budget discussions, but that's would be to my mind, the net impact of if this motion goes through and if the Chief Executive decides with the executive function that she has to pause. And the motion again doesn't call for, that pause could be a month. I'm not sure if the proposer wants a month pause or how many. It's not specified in the motion, but that's the practical reality, I suppose. And we do have, we've approved a budget that provides for hundreds of millions in expenditure in this county and the services that are attached to that. So if the Chief Executive doesn't go ahead with the differential rent increase, where's that money coming from and what is the net impact is the question that I have. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay. John Smith.
Thank you. Yeah, look, I'm more than happy to support this, and I think in the spirit of what people are talking about here, we're maybe getting ahead of ourselves in terms of asking where the money's come from. I would hope if this passes that the Executive will bring forward some proposals that are workable, that show where this money would come from. And I do think it's okay for us to look back at our budget in a way that others are against, because the goalposts have shifted dramatically in the space of a few weeks. Look, the last week in this country has been absolutely astounding, and I've been blown away by the people power, by people being able to get out there and have their voices heard, and by people who would generally be against such types of protests and people who were negatively affected by those protests, standing by those protesters and being able to say, do you know what, this is more important than me being late for work, or this is more important than me missing an appointment. When the cost of living crisis increases and the cost of fuel increases, people will miss more appointments because they will not be able to put the fuel in their cars to get to them. And not everybody is lucky enough. We already know the state of our public transport in this country. The sad thing about all of this is the last week was completely unavoidable, or was completely avoidable. There was a proposal put forward by our party only 2 weeks ago that would have met the protesters' demands, and we would have seen the initiatives brought in to try and curtail the rise in costs. I think it was our former mayor a few weeks ago said that the social contract in this country is broken, and he is spot on. Like, we're at a stage here where we can't even, our unions can't even get out on the ground and vote. There's clauses within the social partnership agreements that stop that. We were on the verge of a national strike in the last week, and it comes down to people that have been pushed to their collars, hard-working people, whether they're businessmen who make decent money or whether they're people that I often advocate for, people with disabilities and people with carers who are being really pushed here. I really hope that the Executive do put forward a proposal that will go in line with this, that we can work with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If we could stick to the motion, it'd be great as well. Councillor James Humphreys.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the proposals for putting this motion forward. It is timely, seeing that the letters are currently being sent out to our tenants. Like, this has been the most predictable chaos, and we know it is because we said it back in November when this decision was being rushed through on the day when we had 14 days to actually sit down and talk about it. This is a crisis that we're going through that was predictable, it was predicted, and it was everyone unfortunately seen it coming because of the state of international diplomacy and politics at the moment. The rationale of that Dublin City Council tenants are paying more So therefore, we should raise the rent on Fingal County Council tenants. Certainly fell flat when it was made back in November. It certainly falls flat on me today. A decision that we have to make today is to proceed with a rent increase. And let's be honest, it's a double rent increase because the rent is done on a proportion of the income. So the social welfare income has gone up, therefore the rent has gone up, and therefore we're looking at another 25% extra on top of that that the executive is imposing on our tenants. This day and age, what's particularly happening at the moment is unjust, unfair and unequitable. The challenge was put towards us of where the money is coming from. Well, the first protocol I would suggest would be the COVID reserve funding that is still sitting on our balance book. I certainly think that should be looked at first, but there is funding there with a bit of effort and a bit of imagination that could be moved around, that we could still maintain the services that we agreed upon in the budget, yet still give this small, short respite to our tenants, which is badly needed at this moment in time. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so Malachy, you've been in already and I'll be coming back to you. So I'm going to Darren Jack Kelly, unless, right, Grant, Darren Jack Kelly?
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor, and I do welcome this motion. You can see the first part of that motion, I'll just quote up there, in the light of the recent acceleration in the cost of living costs. It's the main thing we need to note down here, I think. But just some information I received recently. There are a total of 13,404 adults with income in Fingal County Council housing, with 6,807 in receipt of employment income and 6,597 in receipt of social welfare income only. So with this motion, I suppose I would look at the bands here. So 1 to 250 euro earning a week is 3,886. I'm sure that's people with disabilities and, you know, that are suffering more than anybody else out there. And I think maybe that could be looked at, and maybe 250 euro to 500 euro, where there's 5,519 people earning that amount of money. After that, it's quite good earnings, really. So I would really call on the council maybe to consider looking at especially people with disabilities, senior citizens, which is probably the band of 1 to 250 euro, which is 3,886 people. I think that's fair enough. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor J.K. Onamwera.
Thank you, Mayor. I feel very strongly about the motion. I'm sympathetic about the objective of the motion. However, I think my comment is not going to be about the motion itself, but the conundrum that we might end up setting in respect of the executive function that guides this kind of motion. And my thinking would have been, as much as I believe everybody in this room is supportive of the idea of supporting less privileged and people who are struggling at this moment. My concern would be how we could set aside the executive function in order to achieve this, because it's just going to throw up a whole lot of dust, and the problem that will be associated with trying to take up that motion, if it does pass, is where I think we have a major problem. The key thing here is to be looking at the executive function, which has been set properly for various reasons. However, if this motion passes, will that be able to set aside the executive function, which I don't see happening? So it's on those grounds that I really want us to take another look at the motion and whether or not we are actually going down the right route, or perhaps would it have been a matter of setting aside just an element of this in order to be able to accomplish that objective? Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Joan Hopkins.
Yeah, thanks. I want to support the motion. We hear a lot of people talking about, people having to make the decision about whether they will heat their homes or whether they'll eat. And I luckily have never been in that position, and I'm pretty sure most people in this room haven't been in that position. It must be absolutely horrendous, and it's not some abstract thing, it's something that's actually happening to people in this country. So I suppose when we're looking at budgets, we need to look at our values. And we've got a lot of money. I know we spend a lot of money, but there should be, this is an executive function, there should be some way we can relook at the budget, thinking about if it were you, if it was someone you knew who was sitting in their home, freezing, if they were going to the supermarket terrified that this money would actually mean something to them. It's just one more thing. Like, a lot of us here have been on so many protests, and usually I'm on protests with women and children and people with buggies and wheelchairs, but we saw a different type of wheels in the city the last week. We saw trucks and tractors and grown men crying. There are people hurting in this country, and I think if there is any way we can relook at the budget, see can we do something to pare back somewhere and still provide the excellent facilities that we do in this council. We absolutely are a wonderful council. So I just think we can find the money somewhere, even if it is, as others have said, to look at people on the lower income bands, people with disabilities, pensioners, people who we think, and people with the homes that are not retrofitted, that we could do something to relieve them. Thanks.
Councillor Mark Boland.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to speak in support of this motion. We're still in the middle of an energy crisis, a cost of living crisis, and families are being hit from every angle. That's heating, electricity, food, transport, and the day-to-day costs of just getting through the week. I said it clearly in my speech on the 2026 budget earlier in the year that when people are under pressure, this council has to be careful that the decisions they make don't deepen the hardship of those that can least afford it. The rent increases, they may look small on paper, but for many households, they're the difference between keeping the lights on and putting food on the table. And many families are falling further behind. I'm aware that this is an executive function, and pausing this rent increase doesn't mean that we ignore the council's finances. But it may give the executive time to relook at this issue because of recent events. It means we could possibly act fairly for our tenants. A pause may give us time to assess the current energy crisis and the impact this is having on our tenants, and ensure that whatever approach is taken by the executive is balanced and proportionate. Good morning, Margaret.
Thank you. Councillor Kieran Dennison.
Thank you, Mayor. I heard various comparisons with the Dublin City Council, but my favourite comparison is with Northern Ireland, where social rents there are 17 to 18% of people's incomes. And on April the 6th, the regime in Stormont increased rents by 4.8%. So I wonder if we could send that motion up to the Assembly and see what sort of reaction it gets.
Okay, Councillor Breda Hannafy.
Thank you. I'm not going to repeat everything that everybody has said, but I'm just going to say morally this is the right thing to do. It's just postponing it for a couple of months or as long as this cost of living crisis lasts. We can think we have to look after our elderly, we have to look after the disabled, but especially parents who have children with needs, children with disabilities. They are facing a really chronic hard time. So morally, we have to look after everybody. Thank you.
Okay, and before I go back to Malachy Quinn, I want to say a few words. I was recently queuing in my local shop, supermarket, and there was a lady queuing at the counter, and she's most likely a pensioner, and she was topping up her gas for €10. So she was struggling with trying to heat her home, buying only €10. And I felt great sympathy for her and the struggle that's going on out there with households. However, this will cost a certain amount of money. We'll hear from the executive soon. I was trying to crunch the numbers myself on the last discussion we had in November, and I'm not sure what the number is, but it might be 500,000 a month-ish, maybe. We'll find out from the executive or from Oliver soon. So like a 3-month pause is 1.5 million. And as I said, if I had sight of this motion earlier, before it was put on the agenda, I would have advised the executive to contact the proposer and ask him or her, in this case it's him, Malachy, to put down where the money might come from if we're going to change the budget. and that's what Evie Tormey referred to as well. And so while we have, and I have great sympathy for the motion, definitely have, the government have fuel allowance scheme extended by 4 weeks. In my opinion, they should extend it by 3 months. I don't know what impact that will have, but it help lower income families with the fuel issue. So I don't really have much more to say on it. I have great sympathy for the motion and the idea, but there's no getting away from it that councillors in this room, all of us, have a responsibility to deal with our budgets, our budget that we voted on. And if we're moving A to B or B to C, where is it going to be done? So I'm going to go back to the executive now for their opinion or their reports on it, and I'll hand over now to, I don't know who's taking it up first, so it's Paul Carroll in Housing.
Thanks very much. Just to clarify exactly where we're coming from in terms of where the functions and powers of the council lie in this. The Housing Act 1966, Section 58, sets out the right of local authorities to collect rent from their dwellings, and that's designated as an executive function. So calling or implementing anything outside of that would be ultra vires as per this motion. The amount of money that was proposed as part of the budget arising from rental collection obviously fed into the wider budget discussion, and we might ask Mr. Hunt to comment on that in a moment. But I suppose we would be very conscious of what people are experiencing going through in our council houses and apartments. We'd also be aware of the different measures that the central government has brought in terms of extending the fuel allowance a couple of weeks ago, and then more recently the package that was announced following the recent protests. We do have a very active housing team who are very tuned in to the needs and the situations of our tenants, and will deal very humanely and compassionately with any hardship cases, and there is a hardship clause within our differential rent scheme. It's also interesting to note that our arrears have fallen month on month, year on year over the last couple of years as well. So that's something that we've been working on, but it's a very good story, and I think it shows a good level of uptake in terms of the rental payments coming in. And then I suppose, as part of the budget discussion, not to rehash it, I suppose I thought myself in this. The motion was very carefully worded, I thought, in terms of supporting the pausing of council rent increases as opposed to actually pausing them. But there would be a financial implication on that. But the money that we collect from our rent, as you remember from the budget discussion, that goes into our housing maintenance. One of the councillors mentioned that we do provide a good, strong level of service across the housing department for our tenants in houses and apartments of all different, a wide range of different demographics who we work with, and we also support a retrofitting program that will look to retrofit another 150 of our homes this year, which will, in the long term, deal with issues that have been mentioned in terms of fuel poverty. So I might just hand over to Mr. Hunt now just to comment on the financial aspects.
Thanks, Paul. So the amended budget as passed by this council last November reflected additional income of 3.3 million with regards to the rent increase. As Paul has outlined, that allowed us to facilitate increases in housing maintenance as well as other service areas across housing. Which would equate to just over 400,000 a month.
And sorry, that's for how many months? 3.3 million for?
May.
To the end of the year?
Yeah.
Right. So someone worked out. That's 7 months. Right. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So we have the reply from the executive. I'm going to go back to the proposer, Councillor Quinn, and they're looking at it now. I have an amendment to the motion in from Councillor Murphy But the executive are looking at it here, and we'll come back to that in a minute. I'm going to go back to Councillor Quinn.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody who made a contribution in this motion. This motion is not challenging the executive function of management. This is asking and looking for support from management in the pausing of council rent increases. We're in exceptional times. We're living in exceptional times where we've just seen practically the breakdown of civil society almost in the last week because people are hard pressed. They're hard pressed, they're pinned to their collar, whether they owned a haulage business or they are a widow or a widower living in a council property. They are all being affected in some shape or form. Whether it's a businessman that can't no longer employ 25 people and has to lay people off because it's just not viable to be able to run his business, or it's that lady that the mayor had seen in Skerries that has put €10 on her fuel bill. Everybody is affected. And I just think it's important that we send, that us here as councillors with our limited powers that we have, that we invite an opportunity for the executive to intervene and to do what I would feel, and I think a lot of councillors in this room would feel, would be a positive step on a short-term basis to help people that are hard pressed, whether they live in Castleknock or Balbriggan, anywhere across this county. And that's what I'm asking for the councillors to support. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask for permission, the meeting to extend the meeting to finish this item for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, because we have a reception afterwards, or in here, in this chamber. So 10 or 15 minutes, I hope. And I have to go back now to the executive on... All right, Paul wants to say something there. And then and go back to the executive on Tony Murphy's amendment.
Sorry,
Right.
yeah, I neglected to mention that the scheme has been implemented and we have started communicating with our tenants across the county.
So just give me a minute now. I'll check here. Sorry, we have an amendment. Can I have it up on screen? I'm being told it's in order. So, Councillor Murphy, I presume you're proposing it. And Councillor Kelly. Councillor Kelly is seconding it. Right. Is it on the screen? Right, sure, the current one. Right, so, sure, I'll read it out. Insert the words after increase to support OAPs and people on disability payments that are in lowest income stream. In light of the recent acceleration of the cost of living crisis, I am calling on this council to support the pausing of council rent increases, to support OAPs and people on disability payments that are in the lowest income stream, and that will take effect this month in conjunction with the measures announced by the government in relation to fuel costs, transport costs and other costs, and I'm going to let Councillor Murphy talk to that. Councillor Murphy.
Thanks, Mayor, and having listened attentively to all of the contributions, it struck me that most of the contributions that were trying to seek support for people, including your own story, Mayor, I think there are people out there that are suffering, but I think that in the context of the amount of support that's given and looking at the numbers, there are people who are receiving 750 to 1,000 a week, and they will also...
Sorry, Councillor, I just have to stop you for a minute. I forgot to do something important. The room has to agree to take the amendment. Is the room agreeing to take the amendment? And what will happen is we'll deal with the amendment, and then we'll deal with the original motion. Depends. So what did the room want to do? Do you agree to the amendment? No. So we're going to have...
Yes.
Are we going to have a vote?
Well, then we'll put it to a vote, Mayor.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we have to have a vote on this because there's an agreement on it. So let's have the vote, please, on the amendment. Yeah, who's that?
Just to clarify, are we agreeing that we are going to discuss this, or are we agreeing that this is the motion? To replace.
Agreeing to take it and discuss it, yes.
Okay.
And then that'll be taken first, and then the original motion will be taken afterwards. And if that one goes through, then the original motion falls, Malachy. Just, yeah. No, you can have an amendment. Yeah, and in the order of. Okay, we're voting on whether to take this amendment. Yes. Go ahead.
Just for absolute clarity, the vote now is to amend the original motion.
Correct.
Because I don't think that's what you said.
Sorry. Well, this is an amendment to the original motion. Yeah. Yes. My understanding was, is that correct? My understanding was if the original would fall only if we vote this through. We haven't agreed to this yet.
We'll vote to take it, not vote it through.
Yeah, but whatever. Yeah. Yes, John Walsh. Yes. No. And is that in order, everyone that's experienced here? I think it is. No? Right. Look, motions are amended
Mayor.
all the time, and then...
There's proposed to amend
Yeah.
the motion that's been voted on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, we haven't, apparently. That's what we're arguing about. Are we agreeing to put the amendment on the floor without a vote?
Agreed.
No. Right, let's have the vote on that.
Sean agreed we vote for it. Yeah, okay.
We're going to vote for it now.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. Yeah. What's the one that passion?
Ellen.
No. It's from this month. I just stripped out their motion and put those words in. So if we take this motion.
No, it doesn't say that.
It does. It does. It does.
We're going to call the result now, so if anyone wants to vote, vote.
The results of the vote are green, yes, 20, yellow, abstain, 9, red, no, 5.
Okay, so we've agreed to take the amendment, discuss it now and vote on it. And I'm going to, James, I'm going to go back to the proposer who will explain his amendment. Then I'll come to James. Is that okay? Yeah, you're on the list here. Right, back to the proposer, Tony Murphy.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks everyone for allowing this motion be considered. I think when I had listened attentively to the debate, I got a clear sense that everyone in the room clearly understood that there are very vulnerable people out there, and we do have issues with regard to the support that we can offer as a council. And I think as a compromise to the other motion, when I listened to most of the contributions, there was a lot of references to OAPs and a lot of references to people who are on the lowest income stream. We also have people who are on a much higher income stream, and I don't think that we should consider the whole gamut of people that are there in that context, because we can do more. If we look at OAPs, it's more achievable for the executive to consider. And I think in the context of what Councillor Healy was saying with regard to retrofitting and creating opportunity where we will be able to maybe look at the heating costs and all of the energy costs in a way that they're impacting now that they won't impact if we do the retrofitting, and we put in the supports that are needed in order to keep down the cost of living for people who are trying to heat their homes. So in that end, I felt that this would be a much more achievable goal in order for everyone to agree to get this over the line, even though I do appreciate it's an executive function, but in the circumstances, it is the people who are most vulnerable. It is the OAPs, whom we did discuss in great detail during the debate, and unfortunately it wasn't included, and I felt myself it should have been. And that, coupled with people who are on lower income streams and less able to earn money, should be supported in a way that the force motion intended. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor James Humphreys.
Thank you, and I commend the councillor for putting forward the amendment, but I think in a time of crisis, you shouldn't be adding more complexity to an issue. We know that the rent increase is coming in. I think it's an inordinate amount of body of work that the executive would have to go through to identify who should be paying the increase, who shouldn't be paying the increase, rather than just instituting a across-the-board pause, especially in the context when this motion is not calling for it to be stopped, it's only calling for it to be paused. That in this scenario, there's no need to add an extra layer of complexity to us on the executive side. That should be simple and straightforward. We're in the middle of a crisis, just pause it now.
Okay, Councillor Joe Newman.
Yeah, Mayor, I don't know if there's any difference in this motion than the previous motion, because it's still calling for the pausing of council rent increases. I'd just like clarification on that from the executive. If this motion goes through, do you pause all rent increases or just a certain section? Thanks.
I think it's a certain section, but we'll get clarity. So, Councillor Angela Donnelly.
Thank you. I think we've missed an opportunity here. I will, of course, support the motion because I wouldn't miss out on the opportunity to try and give some people a break. But there's a huge cohort in Fingal County Council that needs a break, and this doesn't take into account people with young kids. It doesn't take into account carers. It's very specific and onerous, in my opinion, in terms of the payments that our tenants are receiving. It doesn't take into account all those HAP, all those tenants that are paying HAP payments. And it's actually, although it's still an executive function, although there's still no guarantee that this is going to be implemented, it's just heartbreaking that we've watered it down to this extent.
So, Councillor Malachy Quinn.
It's regrettable that we watered down that motion that would have facilitated the people and the families that Councillor Donnelly has just mentioned. Well,
sorry, keep going.
It has been watered down because it's...
Sorry, no cross-talking. Malachy Quinn has the floor. Malachy.
Yeah.
Are you okay, Malachy?
Yep.
You finished? No?
No.
Yeah, go on.
If we pass this motion, we are watering down the forced motion. It's actually increasing the amount of bureaucracy that the executive would have to undertake. I had also in the original motion had stated that it was being deferred to the executive function to decide on the duration and timeline of this. So the implications of that would have been and we need to respect the fact that we have limited powers. We respect the fact that the executive would make that decision. This is a watering down. I will support it. If it's passed, I will support it, because the function of my motion was to support people that were vulnerable. That is two cohorts of people that are vulnerable. There is also people that are vulnerable that are in family, two or three families living in council properties at the moment because they have no housing. You know, we have some serious issues there, and I think that these two cohorts of people are very, very, very important. But there is others that are no longer in this motion. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Jimmy Gearan.
Yeah, I mean, Mayor, I think this motion is out of order, first of all. If that's supported, Councillor Quinn's falls, and that's a significant change. That's not a small change. That's maybe making reductions for 15% of the tenants, as opposed to 100% of the tenants, which was the intention of the original motion that I opposed. But you can't have your cake and eat it. We either have standing orders and we either have things that we operate by, and we need to stick to it. That motion, one, is significantly changing the original motion, and two, it has two asks. Pause the council, rent, and as well as that, support OAPs, people on disability, and so forth. So we really need clarification from the executive what that motion means. If it's only those few people, it's a significant change. And I can't support it, sorry.
Okay, Councillor Brian McDonough.
Yeah, it's one of those where I'm not sure that I I don't think it needs this amendment. So, but I also kind of disagree with Councillor Gearan. I think that, as my reading, it doesn't change the intent, which is that the pause would still apply to everybody. It just offers a reason for it. But at the end of the day, given that it's an executive function, it's going to be down to the executive what way they interpret it or interpret our wills and whether they actually want to act on it or not. And they already have the budget, so they don't have to act on it in any way, shape or form. So my view is I'll probably vote against the amendment. If the motion is amended, I will support the amended motion as it is, and I'll certainly be supporting the original motion if that's the one that goes through. So those, you know, in terms of the amendment, there is an argument that we should amend the motion to try and get the most support possible, to try and put more pressure on the executive. So I mean, you know, that's there to be considered. But ultimately, it's still going to be the original motion, I think, that has carried the weight and has done the heavy lifting here, you know.
Okay, I'm going to Kieran Dennison next, and we're going to have to get some clarification on where we're at and where I think we're at. Anyway, Kieran Dennison.
Well, look, Mayor, I have great faith in our housing department to look after people in our social housing stock, because they always have when they get into difficulty. And you know, there's really no need for these motions in terms of the vulnerable people. But look, the motion has been determined to be in order. So if one feels strongly enough about the first motion, then one should be voting against this and then supporting the original motion. But I'll be supporting this of the two of them, and if this is carried, then the other one falls.
And that would be my understanding of the process. In other words, if you want the original motion to pass, you vote against this, and then we go to the original motion. If you vote this through, the original motion falls. That's my understanding. As regards it being in order or out of order, it's on the CLAR now. We've passed that sell by date. It's in order. It's on the CLAR. We're discussing it. We need to extend the meeting again. We need to extend the meeting again, please. May need another 15 minutes. Yes? Agreed. Right, point of order. Yes?
Would mean that the second one falls. This is an amendment, so if this amendment passes, the amended motion has to also be voted on. That's my understanding from standing order.
Okay, well, it's the same thing, I think. Yes, okay, I got you. Okay, right. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're correct. So yes, okay, but my assumption is also if it does not pass, the original motion is back on the floor. Yes, right. Yeah. Okay, right. So where are we at now? I've two left to speak, and we need to move on this. Have the vote in whatever way. John, and maybe back to Tony Murphy in a minute. John Walsh. John Walsh, where are you, John? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'll be brief. Listen, I respect the intent of the amendment, which is to support, older people and most vulnerable people. I actually agree with Councillor McDonough. I think as the motion as the amendment is worded, it doesn't actually change the fundamental intent of the motion. It still supports the pausing of council rent increases. So there isn't actually a fundamental change in the original motion, though I would accept that the intent was to change the original motion. That has not actually been achieved, which is fine in the sense that I'm probably okay with the amendment, but I would prefer to, I would certainly have voted for the original motion. I think that's more straightforward, it's simpler, it's easier for the executive to manage and operate. But yeah, I'm not sure the proposer is achieving what he intended here. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Joe Newman.
Yeah, just a clarification I was looking for, and I think Councillor Walsh brought that out, that this calls for a rent increase to hold off on it. And that means it's the same as the first motion. And
we'll find out.
So it's the same effect as having a rent, cancelling the rent increase for the month, the total amount, as the first one said. And I don't think that was the intention of the motion. Or, the intention was to, stop a certain amount to pay a certain amount of people, but it is the same as the first motion with that other part just added in about.
Okay, we clarify.
In good faith, trying to support the motion.
Clarify that. Councillor Angela Donnelly, and then I'll go back to Tony Murphy.
Yeah, sorry, I was totally confused. Generally, when somebody puts forward an amendment, we vote whether to accept the amendment or not. We don't vote whether to hear the argument and then vote to accept the amendment or not. So I found that really, really confusing, but I would, and I know we're going to get it, but to me, the way that motion is worded now, and thanks Councillor McDonough, because the comma is after increases, it definitely hasn't changed the original motion.
Okay.
I would imagine. Thanks.
We'll get some clarity in that, but before I do, unless Councillor Murphy wants me to do that now, I'll ask the executive for an opinion on that. Or Councillor Murphy, do you want to speak?
Get the opinion first, thanks.
Right, can I get an opinion from the executive of what is the intent or effect, no, not the intent, the effect of that motion before us? Will that pause all council rent increases, or will it pause council rent increases and limit it only to OAPs and people on disability payments?
Yeah, so I suppose we've already clarified that the original motion and this motion would be ultra vires, and that the scheme.
That's not the question. That is not the question.
So no, well, I'm not finished. So that, with that, having said that, that whether or not you add in this extra piece of text doesn't have any material, doesn't make any material change from the original motion, from what I can.
So it's your view that this is a motion in front of us that will pause all, well, might pause ultra vires to one side. Would have the ask to pause all?
It seeks to support the pausing.
So it's still supporting, or still stopping all rent increases. That's the intent of that motion up there in front of us. All right, back to Councillor Murphy.
Okay, Chair, given the information that has been afforded on the officials, that the motion is probably not worded in a way in which it was intended, I'll withdraw the motion.
Grand. Okay, so now we're going to vote on the original motion. And I want to give Councillor Quinn, I don't know if I did give you that possibility. Did you come back, Councillor? Yeah. Right, Darren Jack Kelly, very quick.
I called for 3 minutes, sorry.
3 minutes, okay, Grant.
Please, thanks.
3 minutes are called. Sorry, Kieran, you all.
The original motion is ultra vires. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so 3 minutes have been called. Have a chat. We ready to go to a formal vote? Sorry. Right, we're going to a formal vote on the motion that's on the screen there. Sorry, I can't hear you. Okay.
Sorry.
Green is yes for the motion and red is no against the motion.
The results of the motion are green, yes, 19, yellow, abstain, 0, red, no, 14.
Okay, so that concludes the meeting. And there's a civic reception for Pat Reen, who's retiring, for Prosper Fingal, and you're all very welcome to stay if you wish, or some of you. And it's happening in this chamber now. Thank you.